We're at. You okay in the middle? You want more room? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call the order the Board of Selectmen portion of the special joint meeting with the Board of Finance for Thursday, February 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
And I would also like to call the special meeting to the Board of Finance in order, and please join for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turnout today.
Yeah, it's nice to see people here.
Nice. Okay, so first up, with account 1040 is our tax assessor. Hi, Izzy.
How are you?
Hi, everybody. Okay. So my budget, of course, does not change too much, thank goodness. We've seen about I think I have a 4% increase. Most of my increases are due to my, the salaries, which of course are contracted. The office expense, the postage is going up substantially, and we're at 68 cents a stamp now. That's joking.
68 cents.
A stamp.
I can't remember the last time I blushed.
Highway
68
robbery.
cents a stamp.
68 cents.
Yes. And we get a little discounted with the Pitney Bowes, but still. The other increase would have been a little bit for my dues in education. We haven't quite gotten the, what it's gonna cost for the girls to go to UConn. So I know there's gonna be a little increase, so I've counted on just a little barrier there for that increase. They couldn't give me numbers yet. The other increase, was my, my books. So I have the NADA books. They've gone up substantially. Last year, they were at 2621. This year, they're at 3,260. So that is a big increase for the NADA books. But that's something essential that we need for the motor vehicles to be able to price them fairly and equitably. So the other books I have is Marshall Swift, and they've gone up slightly. They don't go up too much, but they go up for the year as well. I think that is it. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Does anybody have any question for the assessor?
On the salaries, was there like a step increase?
We are done with our steps now. We're completed our steps.
But you had someone who moved up for this
Correct.
budget cycle?
There's also somebody that got certified, the CCMA 1, and they got an increase for getting it.
For that, yes.
Okay.
So that was already moved. And she's working for her too. Hopefully she'll pass that, and you know, it only makes it better that she understands, you know, if I'm not there or anything.
I should probably know the answer to this, but why is,
Tax assessor 140.
oh. Yeah,
Is that the wrong one?
yeah, 40, 50.
Why do you have the election expense?
Never mind.
Yeah. Can you ask Paula tomorrow?
Our grand list increase, we got about a $550,000 increase in our real estate, in our total grand list. So we've done okay there, I think.
I did want to chime in on something with that. So as he's talking about the bottom line, so based on the grand list growth, based on the current mill rate, it should generate $553,000 more. Real estate and property, real estate and personal property is up $811,000, mostly due to new construction, additions, stuff like that. You have additional personal property accounts. Motor vehicles is down $207,000, which I think is important to point out because over the last 2 years, motor vehicle prices have gone up. Obviously, what's happened in the used car market and everything else.
Correct.
So, so it's an interesting turn that now they're starting to come back down. Thankfully, not as quickly as they rose, because then we would have a different mill rate issue.
Yeah. In 2021, we had a 28% increase in motor vehicles. So that was really a big, substantial increase. 2022 was a 9%. This year was down 4%. But it's really where we probably should be because we kind of had it way up here because of COVID.
Right. Anybody questions? All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Next
Have a
up
good
is,
night.
Senior Center, Lisa Plum, account 10430.
Best presentation.
That's the best presentation of the night, wasn't it?
That's
Yeah.
right.
The seventh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lisa's up now.
Oh, wow. Hard act to follow.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
First, I'd like to just start by thanking Nick for coming down to the senior center. We invited him and he took a tour and we were able to explain the programs and the special events and the trips that we do. So thank you very much.
Took a yoga class. That was
Yeah,
good.
there
I was
you
gonna say,
go.
did you join?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
I'd like to extend the invitation to anyone else who'd like to come down. We'd love to have you. Last year, we had 11,421 people participate in programs in the senior center. Our current membership is 1,064 people. Of that, 929 are from Bethel, 135 are from out of town. We require a $20 annual membership fee for out-of-town residents this year after having a free annual membership the year following the pandemic last year. At this point last year, we had 30 more members. We're attributing this to the free membership that was offered. Currently, our programs are filled and our special events and trip waiting lists. Our overnight trip to the national parks this year was filled within 2 weeks of announcing it and has a waiting list. As far as our budget goes, the salaries have been increased by the administration. Our office expense, dues and education, mileage, and the activity budget are adequate to run our programs for the upcoming year. We're not asking for any increase in our budget. And I'm thrilled to report to you that the senior center, kitchen, and women's bathroom will get a complete renovation through the ARPA funds that were designated strictly for senior centers. That's it. Any questions?
Anybody for Lisa? You? If you, 10 more seconds, she's gonna be the quickest tonight.
I know, I'm debating. No, how about one comment? Lisa, you do so much, down there for our seniors, and hearing those numbers about how many people have been involved is pretty tremendous. So thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
continue to do everything we can to support you for
Thank
those.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, I would like to say, I mean, for the budget and the quality that you give to the seniors, it's a big part of this town. So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, next up is account 6435, library. Oh, hi.
All right, this.
I'm Robin Kahn, Chair of the Library Board of Directors, and I'm here with Megan Dean, who's our director, to present the budget, which has been adopted by the board with staff input, with reference to the strategic plan that we just adopted. And I'll turn it over to Megan.
Thank you. So I'm sure you all noticed the salary line for this year. And I want to talk about that first. This year, we're asking for another full-timer. At this point, over the last 6 years, we've really been finding ways to keep our budget low, to ask for small increases. But now we're at the point where we've stretched every dollar. When someone retired and we brought someone new and brought in a little salary, we reduced the clerk position. So we've really been trying to be very respectful of the town in our ask, but now we're just stretched too thin. We're open late Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday right now is become a big problem. We're throwing people out of the library at 5 o'clock. We're turning off the lights on them because we can't get them out. We are the busiest we've ever been. And we did our strategic plan this year and we learned that Tuesday night, the public wants us open. There is a need for it, and the only way to make that happen is with another full-time class. We can't stretch out the staff any more than we already are doing. So this would be a union position with a set salary, and that's what's built into this budget, as well as a 2.75% increase for all of our employees. Any questions on that?
How come it has to be full-time and you can't hire part-time?
Well, you have to, the way we operate is you need a full-timer as a building supervisor. So this would be the lowest entry building supervisor. We don't have part-timers with keys.
Is that
It's
because of the contract? Is that a union contract
Yeah.
issue?
that's the contract. We also have a makerspace in our library that right now we have 4 or 5 employees all running in the time that they're able to make in their schedule. This position would run that space and allow it to be open to the public for use of equipment on a regular schedule, as opposed to trying to squeeze in programs and allow people to send us projects to be completed for them. So the rest of the budget is relatively flat with the exception of the books and materials budget, and that's been increased to cover the increase in contracts for anticipated.
Megan, first of all, you do a great job. Thank you for all your hard work that you do. What is the cost of the new person?
So I don't have that on me, but it's roughly 38.
48 plus benefits.
Yes.
Is that the, sorry,
You
is
have the
that the
number?
full-time person's salary? Because you're replacing a part-timer with a full-time.
Right, that's right.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're
So
right.
joining
What's the
two together.
difference? Yeah.
So I don't have the difference on me right now, but I can certainly send that to everybody.
But it's taking a part-time and making one
Yes.
full-time.
So this part-time position has been replaced 3 times in the last couple of years because we bring them in, we train them, and they leave and they go for full-time jobs. So it's been a long road for us of not having a set person in that position who's been trained.
Can you tell me what's the difference in hours gonna be if you get another full-time
So
person?
the average of our part-timers is about 17 hours.
No, I mean, the length the library's open. Are we hiring a full-time person just for Tuesdays so we could be open late on Tuesdays or?
That's the benefit of hiring, one of the benefits of hiring full-time. We also have somebody to assist with desk coverage, open up the first floor Sealy House, which has been closed since COVID. It allows us to introduce new services and allow for the project lab to be open for people to use. And this will also allow us to stay open on Sundays in the summer, which has been a need for the last 2 years. We've seen people trying to get into the building all summer long.
I have one question.
Yeah, jump in.
So I'm sorry, so I got a little confused there. So you currently have 8 full-time employees and 14. You're gonna take the part-time and go to 13 and go to 9 on the full?
Yes.
And is it my assumption that at one point you're gonna try to fill that other part-time? Or are you good with 13?
So we'll be good with 13 for the start of it. I'm hoping that we can apply for a grant for a short term to get another part-timer in, but that's not on the table for this year. Very much it's getting that full-timer in, getting that organized, re-examining our services and moving some work around. So that would not be something that would happen in the first year.
Okay, so you're saying that if you went to 9 full-time employees, that you would never have a request, or you shouldn't have a request for 14 part-timers, the way the services fit the library
Well,
now?
I don't want to say forever, but I know I can confidently say.
I would like you to say forever, but.
And I understand that. It's just that as our town grows, so does our need for services. And those services are evolving. So we need to keep up with that.
Because right now, the ask almost looks like for a part-timer, because you're converting a part-time to a full-time. But it really, if you immediately came back and said, I need that another part-time, then it's really a full position you're looking for. Okay, thank you.
Megan, the books and materials, when you said contracts, the contracts for what?
So those are our database contracts. Those include things like consumer reports, Ancestry, Mango Languages. It's the databases that you see on our website.
What time is the library currently open till on Tuesdays?
5 o'clock.
And what time are you looking to stay open till?
8 o'clock.
Would it be cheaper to offer full-time employees the opportunity to get 3 hours of overtime rather than increasing the full
I
staff
already
number?
have 2 full-timers working 2 evenings. And I have 2 supervisors that work 1 night a week. However, they have responsibilities during the day, so it'd be very hard to get them to commit to the evening with the full load during the day.
Very disruptive, having lots of staff turnover from the part-timers who, as Megan said, move on to full-time positions at other libraries after she spent time training them. And the rest of the staff has spent training. So it would help in terms of operations in addition to just the hours that were open.
And for the part-time employee that you're replacing, what's their like hourly rate and how many hours do they work a week?
So their hourly rate is, it's over $20 an hour. And and anything that I can't answer tonight, I will put into a packet and send to you to share with everybody.
While she's looking for that, Dan, didn't we talk at some point, and you might remember this too, about when we get the budget, breaking down the salary so that we know this information, like what the hourly rate
You
is,
can
what the
just email
salary.
it to us.
Okay, so you want the part-timer?
No, and I don't care
hourly
now.
rate?
I see what you
In the
mean.
future.
I'm just curious about, you know, you say you're, you know, replacing a part-time employee. I'm curious to as how many hours that part-time employee works and what's their hourly rate.
So that position would be 17 hours a week, and their hourly rate is about $20 an hour, which will go up by 2.75 next year. Sorry, I broke my mouse before the meeting, so I'm gonna really.
That's all
hard time
right.
getting
No,
stuff,
that's so-
but I can get it for you.
So the hourly employee is roughly around $340 a week. A full-time employee is about $850 a week.
Yeah.
So the difference comes out to about $500 a week more, correct?
Pull it up right now. So right now, it's $20.81 for a part-time library assistant.
Okay.
And it would be,
And that's 17 hours.
yep, and then it would be $9.32 for the new position. And that would be the 35 hours.
Do they have step increases or do
They
they
do.
start at top step?
There are no step increases for any one of the contracts. And I just want to say that while I do have 8 full-timers, one of them is our admin, so she is not on the floor helping the public. So we really only have 6, and it's 7 if you include myself.
So it's typical, whatever hour you pick, 11 o'clock on a Thursday, how many employees are in the building, in the library?
So our skeleton crew with no lunches is 4 people. But that means no programs, no assistants. If somebody books a room, it's bare bones. You're talking about 6 people to run the building with assistants.
6 people at all times.
Yes, for effective. Right now, we're short-staffed because we're looking to hire, fill a position that somebody just left. So right now, we're skeleton crew most weekends.
How many of those people are part-time? So you have 6 people. So how many full-time people will you have versus part-time?
So on a weekend, it's typically 1 to 2 full-timers and the rest are part-time. In the evenings, it's typically the same, 2 full-timers and part-time. We also do in the evening, so we have programs running. So right now I have 1 in the desk upstairs and 1 in the presentation room running the program.
How many times has this position turned over?
Since COVID, it depends.
Should put them on a polygraph first.
They didn't get an anniversary card or
Are you
anything.
going to leave?
Any other questions from Board of
I
Finance?
want to know how you save $600 on your phone. My keys going up.
We're very lucky that we're on a good plan. I know the town also.
When you say if somebody, takes the room or they need the room, how often does that happen and what kind of things happen?
It happens anywhere from 4 to 6 times a day. It could be somebody just looking to study. It could be an HOA. It could be
Okay.
Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. Typically, it's booked by members of the community.
And
and then-
every day there's something
Oh, yeah.
booked?
Well,
Wow.
Monday through Friday right now, we have the room booked from 10 to 1 o'clock for the schools. And then in the evenings, we have a crochet group, a knitting group. We have HOAs that fill in every couple of months. We have the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Odyssey of the Mind. It's a vast list, and it could be different.
Yeah, no, I just wondered how often.
Yeah, so like right now on Sundays, we have 3 rooms booked for the 4-hour shift.
And what are the schools using the library for?
So they have a special tutor program for select students, and they're there during that time.
Do students use the library other than,
Oh, yeah.
like, describe that?
So like on Martin Luther King Day, we had about 30 high school kids studying in the library. We even got shushed a couple times because we have a drop-in teen volunteer program, which gets about 20 or 30 kids a year. And they come in, they see the library, they utilize the space, and then they come back with their friends. So we have a nice development. And we were very lucky. We had a teen grant over the last 2 years that allowed us to completely redesign the space and create a real welcoming environment for teens.
I think when you were here last year, you said there was a gaggle of teenagers who would come every day after school, hang out at the library. Is that still?
It is. It's a new, different group of kids, but it changes every year. So we have days where, we have a few come in, and we have days where we have 20 plus. And when there's no school, it fills up fast. That's cool.
Do you guys bring in any revenue to the town? Like, is there any fees associated with like booking a room? Like if,
No,
someone's-
we charge fees for out of town, but we don't get a lot back.
so in town's free, out of town, you.
Yeah, we look at it
charge
as you
fees.
pay for it and you pay your tax. So I think it's really not much.
Yeah, last complete fiscal year, they brought in 2,600 bucks.
Are there businesses who book the rooms ever?
Not really. It's really just non-for-profits or people in members of the public.
Homeowners associations.
Yeah, but those, like, they're also typically all members of communities.
Yeah.
Are there other tutors not affiliated with the school program who are coming to?
I'm
do
sure there are, yes.
Tutoring, so they're actually making money at the library, but not paying a space.
Yes, but then we would need more staff to monitor that and track who's a tutor, who's a parent, and who's a kid helping out somebody else.
Yeah, that's kind of a big business. Down in Wilton, it's a big business, right? I mean, there are.
I couldn't
hordes of
speak to
kids
that.
Going to tutoring at the library, you do pay for a room.
I was in a library where we attempted to charge for tutoring, and it was a disaster.
Oh, really?
Because you're struggling to identify, well, I'm not a tutor, I'm trying to help me out a kid, or, well, then we'll just, the parent comes in and complains, well, now I can't have my child tutored here, we have to do it at home. So there's a lot of pushback with that, and we're really trying to create an open environment, and what's nice is when a parent comes in with their child to be tutored, they're now in the library, utilizing resources with their other kids, so it's building community.
So you're welcome. It's
Yeah.
welcome.
Anybody else?
Well, if there's anything I missed tonight, please let me know.
Before you go, just a comment, 'cause, we've been doing this for a while, and each year you come back with really responsible budgets. What's been great is I've watched you evolve year after year to really do different things and engage the community. So hats off to you and the library board.
Yeah.
Because you really are the community center for Bethel.
I'm
If
very
you think
lucky.
about it, you're the community center. You do a great job.
We do have a great staff, and half of them do live in town, and they really are dedicated, and it's nice.
I liked you right away. Remember?
I know.
That's saying something to Cynthia like. so-
Yeah.
She still doesn't like me.
I've known her for 15 years and she still hates
You're
me.
one of them.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you both.
Parks and Recreation, 10-380. Should we move this to the end so they can all stay here longer?
Yeah, I think so.
Wait, no,
Some high guys.
I forgot we're also talking about capital.
Yeah.
I know.
You guys just read the slides.
That's always the best.
Oh,
On their toes.
Ah,
I'm just gonna hand this out now.
Yeah.
no, you-
It's just for big one. That's what you're at there. Thanks.
I'm very jealous of that. I didn't have
You
it.
sound great.
Oh, okay.
Well, hello all.
Hello.
Been in front of you guys a lot lately. First thing I want to do is thank everybody here. Dan and the Board of Selectmen and Nick and the Board of Finance and Brad for all of your help and assistance in dealing with the budgetary issue, making it a more transparent and budget that more accurately reflects what we do and the costs associated with doing those things. And it couldn't have been done without your help and support and the hard work of Brad, Rachel, and some of the commission, some of our commission members. So really wanted to express our thanks. The budget before you guys is an interesting budget because it presents two budgets. One, which reflects the increase over the budget we had at the beginning of this fiscal year, and another one which reflects an increase over the adjusted budget, the $319,000 that we all participated in creating. That budget, which is a little bit over 6%, really does reflect the reality of where we are going forward. And we just want to talk just real briefly about what makes that, what's part of that 6% increase. As you can see lower in this page, it explains that the drivers of that are the increases in the minimum wage, and then two new program figures. One, which is a more realistic budget for new programs, increasing what used to be $2,000, which was completely unrealistic, to $24,000. And the good news about that budget is those will be expenses that will be covered by increased revenues. And then the other new one is something that the Governing Sports Association for high school sports has created an opportunity to allow coaches to run programs for their sports teams in the off season, but they don't want the schools to run it. They want another entity like the Park and Rec to be able to run that program. Heretofore, you couldn't do that. Your football program, you couldn't have, the football running a camp and with the coaches there in the summer. Now they can. They want to use us as a conduit. So that won't cost anything additional to the town, but we're allocating $20,000 because we don't know how many coaches are going to want to take advantage of this. But we do know it will at a minimum break even. And hopefully what we'll see is that 70-30 mix that we like with cost and revenue. And that's where we are. If the other good news is that that $120,978 in budget adjustment, new total, that increased cost, about $100,000 of that we conservatively estimate will be covered by increased revenues from these new programs as well as the other. And I just want to make one quick point is that we continue the commission, but Rachel in particular and Brad, we continue to work to find more cost savings in all of our programs. I mean, we're really holding the line on expenses. I think that's all I got.
Brad, do you want to go over the revenue or would you prefer?
So Rachel handed out the revenue projections. So the adjusted revenue after the $319,000 adjustment has Park and Rec at $940,000 fiscal year 24. The estimate right now for 25 is $1,040,000, so up $100,000, I guess, and 84. She has $1,040,084, but I didn't put that in my calculation. So really, their revenue projection is going to be up $1 million after the adjustment. So, and like Lou said, that like the goal that Rachel and I were talking about and Lou were talking about for like the new program line is the first year, make sure you break even on it. And then if the program's successful and you're going to run it in future years and it would be budgeted for as its individual program, then it should fall into their 70-30 split, where if it costs $100 to run, the instructor gets 70, or it costs $100 to join, the instructor gets 70, the town gets 30. But I think that's kind of trying to be on the conservative side. That's kind of hard the first year you run one. Obviously, if nobody signs up, you're not going to run it. But I think with buying some supplies and whatever else you need, I think the goal would be for any new program, year one break even, and then if it's successful, then it gets budgeted for the following year, and the revenue would exceed what the expenses of it are.
And typically the programs barring like our larger programs like before and after care and summer camp, you know, they only run if they meet that bare minimum that the instructor is willing to take. And there are some programs where we might say the minimum is 8 and we get 4. We'll go to the yoga instructor and say, hey, listen, you only have 4. If you want to run it, this is what you're going to get paid. You're not going to get paid your rate. So we kind of leave it up to the instructor too to make a decision. You know, if they get 4 and they do well and word gets out, then maybe the next round they get to 8. So 9 out of 10 times the programs are only running if we are going to be able to cover our expenses.
Just so I understand, Brad, you could help me out. Last year we had approved 1.65, right?
And 1695, yeah.
1695, then we adjusted it not too long ago. Yeah, I was just saying not so long ago.
Seems like a year ago.
We adjusted it 319,000, but you think you've picked up some revenue that will kind of offset?
Yes, I think we definitely have. We haven't run any new programs this year because we were in a deficit, and we've had a lot of, whether it's teachers or other instructors that have wanted to run new programming, come to us and ask us to do new things. And we just said, listen, we put a kibosh for this year, but in the new year, we can do new things. Like we had a couple people that were interested in doing, you know, basketball camps during the spring break. And we said, listen, if you can you can run it all and take all the registrations and, you know, we'll help you advertise it, sure. But if you need us to, like, we can't do that this year just so that we're staying where we need to be. So yeah, I think definitely the need's out there. And we have people that want to run programs, but especially in the schools, teachers know that they're going to get the kids to stay after school and take their programs, or before school, especially at Johnson. Some teachers run some before school things where the kids come at 7 o'clock to do music or kindness clubs, things like that.
And you guys feel confident that the current number that you're coming in at, the 2,135,511, is going to be adequate, and we shouldn't run it to,
No,
you know, we're feeling really good about that.
it's a legitimate question.
I'm feeling,
I'm being
I'm
funny.
feeling
I'm just honestly, I'm here.
90% great about it.
How
Yeah,
much?
I'm feeling
99.99%.
You know, but I think realistically, I mean, if you've seen the budgets in the past, and I'm hoping even moving forward that our budget will be broken out even more so than it is now, where I'm able to say, you know what, this is how much we're spending on Board of Ed fields. This is how much we're spending on paint for these things and these things. You know, with it being my first year and really going through each month fresh, because even though I was here for 18 years, it had nothing to do with this side of it. You know, I think the goal is to have numbers that are realistic and not numbers where I'm going to have to say, listen, I didn't know that this cost this. Like I've tried to do my research, and Brad and Lou and Greg from the commission have been great. And we're all steering myself in the right direction, I think, and the department in the right direction.
I think we've reevaluated how we do business as well as how we budget. So there's been things that you'll see, there's notes, there's been things that Park and Rec was paying for that have been taken out of the budget. That's helpful. But really, this all came down to spending a ton of time, particularly Rachel and Brad, in just looking how where every single dollar was spent in the last couple of years to be able to craft a budget that makes sense, it's realistic, it's defensible, and that we are confident that we can meet it. And we think we may even do better on things like revenue. But to your first question, Brian, when you were asking about that 319, yes, some of that 319 being covered by increase in revenues that we've seen over this fiscal year.
Yeah, Brian, we did adjust the revenue side also when we added that. I have a question.
Sure, jump in, John.
So mine's a two-part. I know we're not supposed to talk about revenue, we're talking about new spending, but when we were plugging the holes with your budget in the last couple of months, we talked about the before and after program and how it was a complete loser. And we were going to talk about different ways of trying to prop it up and make it more self-supporting, right? So last year's prior numbers, it looks like the revenue was 275. Could you adjust that number? Because it looks like you have currently the revenue is going to be 275 this year, right?
Yes. And I think we decided to keep it as is right now
For the prediction.
to just predicting wise, but we definitely plan on making more because we did let teachers and Board of Ed employees know that.
Okay, so is
Starting
it gonna
point,
get,
tell John.
Starting next fall.
okay, so that's why you didn't, your
all right.
projections.
Oh, that didn't start yet? I thought that was gonna be immediate.
No, that was letter was going out.
I thought it was 30-day notice and.
No, it was school year notice.
Which was one of the requests of Dr. Carver, said she understands taking it away. She needs to give them some notice. And as somebody
30
that
days wasn't enough?
has, well, as somebody that has a kid in daycare, it's pretty much a daycare service for them. You can't really find a slot for a first grader, even with 30 days notice, without having to go out and get like a private nanny or something. Just because these things fill up.
Start of the school year is gonna be when that stops.
Yep, 2024-25 school year.
What was the cost of that program? Like for
For
a parent who
people that were
wanted to take
paying, it was
advantage of it?
$13 for the morning, so from 7 a.m. to start of school, and $18 for the afternoon, so typically 3:30 to 5:30.
And how many kids participated roughly?
You're gonna average about 30 for each program at each school, so about 90 in the morning, 90 in the afternoon. A little bit more at Johnson because those kids can kind of contain themselves, so I think Johnson in the afternoon would have about 40.
I'm just curious because, I mean, it just seems like it's a really big benefit to
Yeah.
a lot of our residents who are, you know,
Drop off.
working very hard and, you know,
Yep.
can't afford traditional daycare. Would there be an increasing cost that would make it worthwhile for you guys to continue the program, or is it just not worth it at all?
You mean continue?
No,
Well, we're still
I-
doing it.
Oh, we're doing it.
Oh, I thought I heard him say you were
No,
dropping.
no,
it.
Board of Ed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, the
Right.
yeah.
Brian.
Rachel can answer the question for me. She's the director, right?
Traditionally, when it was originally a Board of Ed program.
Okay.
7 years ago, we took it over.
Mhm.
When we took it over, I thought there was an agreement, but that I was not part of this when we originally took it over. There was an agreement that Board of Ed employees paid half in the morning and were free in the afternoons. Because typically the teachers would use it until, their duty was over or their meeting was over. So typically it'd be about an extra 30 minutes on top. But through all the research that Brad and I have done through the years, we saw that we were losing about $100,000 a year, allowing these kids to come in for free or paying half. So starting next school year, anybody that participates in the program
Basically.
will be paying full price.
Rachel, the teachers' kids.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And there is, one of the discussion sites of it was, there is a wait list because the program's full.
Right.
So some of the reason that the revenue projection's not higher for it, we don't know if all those teachers are just gonna pull their kids. And then there's gonna be less kids and there's gonna be some backfilling with wait lists. So I think the first year, not knowing what's gonna happen there, keeping the revenue flat on it is smart. And then we're hoping, even like halfway through the year going, yeah, this thing's making a lot more money, or its costs are coming down. Because if a lot of kids get pulled out, she won't need as much staff.
Right. And the Board of Ed's also supposedly is working with their staff too. So, if you had a child in your school that they used to not let them stay with at the end of the day, they couldn't go see Nick after school until their Nick's
Nor
duties
should
were
they.
done.
Would they really want to see Nick?
Nor
So-
should they. Just be-
No, kids
I
should
think
not
they
be
were gonna,
seeing him.
they were gonna work with the teachers and where the kids would be able to go to them after school versus having to come to us for the 30 minutes.
Cynthia?
Well, yeah, a couple of things. One is, I understand starting it in the fall, but isn't there kind of a way to, I don't know, titrate it and to put that into effect, like you're saying, letting them stay with the parent in school, like if it's a teacher, just, I'm saying half the day or at the end of whatever. But my real question is, how many, and did you say it extended to the Board of Ed members too?
No, Board of Ed
Okay.
employee. So like the
I understand, I
paras,
understand. I just,
people in the schools.
I understand
Yeah.
that. How many do you think were
Oh, I know that off the top.
enjoying?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I want to say it's about 24. It changes, it would change every year because, you know, some kids would age out. Like the parents, they'd go to the middle school. We don't have the program at the middle school. So I want to say we're at about 24, 28 right now
Out of 90.
out of 90
It's a
throughout the
big-
schools.
It's a big
No, I
percentage.
understand, that is big.
And I would say they all definitely use before care because obviously
Sure.
they have to. And aftercare, it'll swing either way depending on the teacher and what they do.
And Brad, maybe you can answer this question, because now I'm thinking that that's actually a benefit. And does that have any sort of, anything to do with,
I don't, it's, if you're asking if it's like a
Benefits or
taxable benefit, is, I don't know. If you- There is a quantifiable dollar amount of it, but if it was 15 minutes and it was part of it, a lot of that stuff, it's, I'm not a tax expert, but it's.
no, I mean,
hard to
I
say, yeah.
think in terms of union contracts and things like that, I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing in the contract that they get it, because that was our first concern.
Right,
And that's when we started talking to Dr. Carver about it.
Yeah, this was more of a,
You don't have to do
it's
it.
just like,
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
Just have
an
to.
initial conversation when it happened 7 years ago.
I understand.
And
Yeah.
equivalent to something, right? John, did you have another, I'm sorry,
Well, I guess, let me just
yeah, we
finish
jumped
up
in.
with where I was. So, and bad on me for not asking, but I thought that the commission was working on every way of saving money. And I did not ask the question when the new ask of 319 came in, but I thought that was a huge benefit to 25 kids that they were getting this service. There's a lot of young families that would have loved to get that for free. I mean, I think teachers are paid fair, and to get that, you know, I thought your commission was really working on trying to keep the number down. But so to be clear, September 1st, when school starts, any kid that's in that program now that belongs to a parent that teaches is either going to come out or pay
Yep.
to be equal to the other 90 kids that are there.
And we'll honestly know that early because what we do is people that are in it now sign up early so they can fill those spots, kind of like what you would do at a daycare. You go year round. So usually in June, we'll know if the teachers are going to use it or not. And then July 1st, it opens up to new people that want to take part in the program. But typically, I mean, if it's anything like this year, the program will fill before the first day of school.
And if it doesn't fill, if we go from 90 to 75, because some parents found alternative, so expenses would directly go down, or is there a fixed cost to a certain
No,
class
because we
size?
would have less staff then.
But you
So
have,
it-
if you have a waiting list, wouldn't that fill in?
No, I know.
Okay.
My question was, if it goes down, if we don't find a waiting list,
Yep.
that expenses would go down to adjust to the revenue that it would be created.
Yes.
Thank you.
Obviously, if like 3 kids pull out, she can't lower her staff by 3.
No.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if it drastically reduced, she'd be able to lower her staff.
Dave, you had a question?
I'm good.
You good? Bob?
I just have a question. I think following up a little bit on what John was asking. Last year's revenue for before care and after care, 275. Add the two together for this coming year, it's 275.
Yeah.
But if 28 out of 90 participants will now be paying participants, why does the revenue stay the same?
Sometimes was just trying to be conservative.
I'm
not knowing what's
erring
gonna
on the
happen,
side of
but,
caution on Brad's.
If 28 teachers pull their kids out, then they don't have that revenue.
But there's a waiting list.
Yes, that's. what I was
Yeah, but
saying.
like, it depends on those people down on the waiting list. She could call and say, I have a spot, and go, oh, I found other.
There'll
found
be more
somebody else to
people on the
watch that.
waiting
And
list.
we've had,
guaranteed.
our waiting list hasn't grown too much, but we've been pulling people off while we can, because some people move.
Sure.
You know, some people's jobs
Yeah.
change and things like that. So any chance we get to pull somebody off the wait list, we do.
Well, the way it's shifting, I think you're going to not have any dirt on them.
Yeah.
It's just me trying to be conservative on revenue.
Right. So then, one further step. The paraprofessionals,
Yes.
when we were talking about the 390, a large driver to the 319 were programs. Large driver to programs before and after. Are the paras for before and after or for something else?
So the pairs in general are for any program right now. And when I say para, I should say more of like an adult, because just take into account again, and we've had this conversation, do we have to offer? And we have to make an attempt to offer. So we always have to have somebody there in case we do need it. And also, like, there's some medical things where we don't have a choice. Like, I had a great family that has a diabetic child that is planning on coming to camp. You have to offer that. I'm not asking a college or high school kid to take the course on how to treat and monitor a diabetic child and be responsible for him at camp. So yes, I'm definitely hiring a para, and really, I have to have a backup. So something like that, you have to offer. That cannot be denied. That legally cannot deny it, have to have it. And luckily, I mean, and it's also, that number is, if for some reason all of a sudden he became a child that needed subcutaneous needle, we would have to hire a nurse, which, I mean, that would probably wipe out half of that account.
Well, I'm curious about that part myself, because we've gone over this,
Yeah.
behind the scenes. We have to offer a reasonable,
I think
That's
when
the
it comes
word,
to medical, you have to
so it has to be,
legally.
it has to be a nurse, or can we have a school nurse or? like-
Nurse, if it's you only need a nurse for a diabetic child if they have to have a needle done.
Right, okay.
And that would be a nurse. And again, it could be, wouldn't be the school's nurse. I mean, we could ask the school's nurse if they want to work, but we would probably try to go out and try to find somebody like maybe that had a kid for the summer.
Yeah.
You know, maybe do a little bargaining so we don't have to pay them $60 an hour or whatever the going rate is.
The commission has wrestled with this
I
issue
know.
because there may be some kids where it's not appropriate. to have
And
them
there
in the
are kids that
program.
we have removed, you know, kids that cannot maintain their hands and could be violent or are runners and things like that. We have had removed from programs in general, not just camp. But you know, I think it's such a fine line. So to not have that para line in there,
Yeah.
to not be able to hire them, I think would be a disservice because, I mean, because I do occasionally read, the Y recently got sued because they didn't offer an accommodation, a reasonable one, which was very reasonable, and they lost in court. So we're kind of in that same thing where somebody, I mean, it's a litigious.
It is,
community
we,
now,
just so
so-
everybody knows on the board, we have talked about this with council. And, you know, there could be exposure, right? If we don't have a para available for one of these, because we do have to make reasonable accommodations to have them. But, yeah, what?
Well, to Bob's point, you're right, that 35 was part of the 319, and that is the case. And really, it's just breaking it out. It's not new money. We're literally just breaking that out as a separate budget item. But it really isn't new money for the,
So it's 35 and some change. So, and it's going to be for all programs. It's just not the before and after.
No, 'cause
It's going to be a
there's some-
fill-in
It's
position.
gonna be
There's some
mostly
after
camp.
school, some
Yeah.
after school stuff, we need people. So like if somebody's taking one of our art programs or one of our after school sports programs, it just may be a child that, and sometimes it's not necessarily a para, it's just an extra staff person that we're getting. And typically with our after school sports people, if they're taking on an extra staff because they need help, that's usually coming out of their pay. But a para where we need somebody because
A certain.
a certain child just needs the extra hand. And Coach Claridge, who you probably don't have young enough kids in Johnson, but she runs a huge program and she takes every child you can imagine. And she goes out and finds the paras to work with them because she does take kids where they need to have a para. They need a one-on-one because whether they have a falling issue because they don't have good balance or they just need redirection, things like that. So
So how many hours, obviously that's just, you're carrying the 35 for somebody. So how many hours would that be?
camp would
Over a
be
year.
35 hours a week for 6 weeks. So that if we had a para for that entire time, it came about to 4,500 for the summer. Last year we had 2 paras on and 1 part-time because we had a child that would just come on Fridays. Again, it could be none.
You're going to use it until it's done, basically.
Yes.
and that 4,500 would.
35,000.
Right, well, for the individual, if we were.
For
to
the
have-
one
For one
para.
individual would be 4,500.
Yes.
It's only offset in revenue by what, 1,300?
Yeah. because camp in the end is $13.50.
All of that's kind of, right, it's all sort of gonna be blended over so that
And again, it's a case by
it's
case
going.
basis. Is it somebody that is going to be able to have an experience, a positive experience in our programs?
No, there's a fact.
So,
Bob, were you done? I'm sorry, because we walked all over you just like we do with John. And I feel bad about you, not John. But
No, we're gonna, I think, general trend of it, so.
Yes, it's just broken out. But when we look at the overall program, the paras for before and after care, the paras for, they beg and needed for in our program or for camp. Ultimately, the way the budget has now been created, they will be paid for by the general revenues that we brought in. So it is a service, so that's why we wanted to break it out. We talk about the difference between the service and the program, but ultimately there will be revenues to cover even those paraprofessional costs, which run at, I think, around $21 and change an hour versus the bulk of minimum wage people that we have in a lot of these camps and programs.
Well, when we first started this, it's a huge quality of service. I mean, it's a big thing with the town, and we're okay with it, not breaking even or not making money, because again, it makes a part of the town, whole. You know what I mean? If we didn't have programs like this in the senior center, we would just have a bunch of houses and streets, and the streets aren't really even that good. Bobby, I'm sorry. You're coming up. So again, it means a lot, like the library and stuff. That's what makes a town. So I'm always considering Park and Rec as a new account, because there's a lot of new stuff, and we'll find out when we track it, how it's coming. So.
Right. And one of the great things that you did with that adjustment, right now it gives us a new starting point, but it also enabled us to keep all of the programs. We didn't have to cut programs like we talked about. If we didn't get that passed, we didn't have the adjustment, we would have to make big cuts. And one of the things that was mentioned was before and after care, simply because it's a huge item. But we're happy that.
And we were nervous about shrinking up a little bit, because we felt like you were trying to shrink up a little bit, and maybe that wasn't the right direction.
You guys provided the right guidance. So we're happy that all that worked out. And hopefully what we're going to be looking at is actually going to be more like a 2.75% increase, not the 6, but we're asking for the 6 just in case.
Any other questions? Anybody on the board of finance?
When did high schools get to start doing their off-season programs?
So, I believe it is July, and I think it's 7 weeks in the summer. I don't think they firmed up the dates when I met with Board of Ed recently, but it's 7 weeks. It's a maximum of 2 days a week and a maximum of 2 hours per day. So
is that the SEAC that actually?
the CISC placed it, and of course, they made it so that we have to run it instead of just letting the coaches like rent field space and run it on their own. So they kind of put a lot of pressure on all the towns to do it, because how do you not let the coaches do those sort of things? Like the Board of Ed can't run it, the coaches can't run it, only this kind of organization can run it. So to me,
the same coaches, right?
yes, it has to be.
Football coach can coach.
Yes, the
their
football coach,
players
and
6
some may
weeks before.
choose to run it and some may choose not to. Like baseball, all those kids you typically play summer ball, so they may choose not to utilize it. But Mark, the AD at the schools, is working on a Google form with the coaches to see who wants to run it, when they want to run it, what price they're running it at, because they've got to figure that out. I told him what we need to get, and the coaches, they can figure it out with the coaches what they want to do. Some might choose to do it once a week. Some may choose to not do it. I'm assuming the football coach will be running every single hour that he possibly can, because he's new.
So you might make a little extra.
Yeah, and we might not. Like, do I think it'll be 20,000 overall? I don't know, because I have no idea how many of those coaches are going to want to do something.
But it should cover the cost,
Yes,
regardless of whatever
regardless,
it is.
it's going to cover everything. Yeah.
We're not going to run a program where
No,
we don't cover all of the costs.
especially for the high school.
Luke, just something you said, and I'm hoping going forward, you said this year you think it's 6.5, hopefully it'll
Six,
be, yeah, 6, hopefully it'll be 2.5 or whatever. Just going forward, I know this is kind of a trial year. What's so important to me is, and I know we've had disagreements in the past, is trying to be as close to the real number as possible. Because when we're 4% over on a budget, yeah, the money's coming back to the general fund, but that money actually got taken out of people's hardworking dollars. And that's why I always think it's so important. So I'm hoping this year I totally understand what's going on. And, you know, you've been doing a great job, you know, in your new role, but I hope going forward, we have more confidence in our presentation in terms of where we really think the revenue is going to fall.
No, that's fair.
And again, it's not a criticism. It's just, it's something that's always been important to me that we really try to get to what the numbers are going to be. And if you're off by 50,000 and I'd rather pull 50,000 out of the general fund than take it out of someone's pocket who's struggling right now, you know, with groceries where they are, gas, rent, everything that's going on.
No, that's fair.
But it was a great presentation.
Yeah.
So the 2.75 that Lou referenced, so if you took the 6% that they're at after the adjustment, if you took away what we don't know what minimum wage increase is going to be, so we banked on 24,000 for 25, the new programs for the high school sports, and taking the new program line from 2,000 to 24,000, if you back up those, they'd be at 275. Because we were looking at it like, why is it still so high? So then,
I
yeah,
get it.
so that's, yeah. So.
So if you have one.
Wait, Richie has a question. Richie has a question.
Well, that's not a question. I know Dan and Nick are gonna say this, but
No, I'm not.
I want to personally thank you because I had no idea what Park and Rec was all about. Really, it was for untangling everything and doing all that. I mean, what an amazing amount of work. And I just want to personally thank you because it certainly has enhanced my understanding of the department. And I personally appreciate it.
Rachel, on your programs with, on the preschool, was that the same issue? Was there anybody getting free stuff there? You had last year's budget at the 45 and this year you're projecting 67.
I think last year's budget was under. A lot of the numbers I fixed with this budget.
It was corrected as part of the 390, right? The majority of that.
All right, I was just wondering if there was an
Yeah.
issue about that.
No, our preschool programs are running full force and having a great time.
Waiting list for that one also.
No,
No?
not really. Typically you get a pretty steady group of people that take the programs that they take. I mean, you do get some that fill, but normally we try to take as many as we can.
And that's run out of this code.
Yeah.
So.
I do want to, not to be talking about revenue, but on the revenue sheet you gave us, you had preschool at 215,000 this year, 27,500
The
Is that fiscal
215
camp?
for last year was camps as a whole.
camps as a whole.
And now this year
You
she's
broke
breaking
out
it out.
Broken out with different.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there's preschool camp and then there's preschool program.
Right. And the preschool runs mornings, basically, right?
Preschool typically runs 9 to 2:30, 9 to 3, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, but preschool's on here twice. So preschool programs up above is the 75,000. That's the Sharon's
That's
program
the-
year round.
The school year
School
programs
year
and
program.
preschool camp is summer.
Yeah.
Is that
That's the
broken up into
67,000.
two of them, like a morning and after?
So there are multiple programs.
Yeah.
Typically it's 2 programs a day.
Right, but that's what I'm thinking.
Capital, Park and Rec is capital requests.
It can't be any capital increase, is it?
I tried to keep it really skim.
I'm sure there's a tennis court somewhere.
There's definitely a tennis court.
And the pool.
Tennis
No pool.
or pickleball, maybe?
Pickleball.
There you go.
Some of our mowers, our guys been doing their best to keep some of them going, but they're all fine right now, but our large mower might not make it through the season. That's the one that really paints the lines really, really well for the baseball field, all the athletic fields. That's the one we use on the athletic fields, the
You talking about
What was the
striping?
one that,
mat striping.
what's it called?
Painting.
Striping? Oh,
No, because I remember when there was this
John, what is-
amazing
what's
mower
the-
at the end of the
Ventrac.
day.
The Ventrac.
And it was doing the,
Yes,
like,
it's very
slopes.
cool.
Is this the one?
No,
No,
this
no.
is a different one. The Ventrac can
That
actually do
was-
that too. The Ventrac has a lot of options,
Okay.
which
so
are very
As
impressive.
long as the Ventrac's
Even the
okay.
school bought one.
Well,
The large mower you're talking about is the 100,000.
That's the
Okay.
huge one. Which right now we don't need yet, but there's a good possibility my maintainer might say, we can no longer duct tape certain things.
I know a little bit about lawnmowers, but
yeah.
why are we using the Ventrex for flat mowing? You know what I mean? I mean, such an expensive piece of equipment. I've seen it several times. You're actually just cutting flat lawns at 2.5, 2 3/4. You know, I thought that was supposed to be special for rough terrains and
Sloping
areas.
and hills and
Slopes,
drops and dales.
I mean, tell me they're getting caught up because of a rainy week, then I'm okay with
Well,
it, but
Well, I mean, you saw the summer and I mean, they didn't stop. So definitely they were on mowers a lot longer than they thought they would
see how I
be.
give you that softball?
And even with the Ventracs, there's one area in the schools we will not do. We've told them we're not going to do.
You're talking about incline, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we won't do because.
Well, that's what that
it's-
machine was
It's
designed for.
weird, but it's weirdly unsafe.
I got it.
So,
Troy can do it.
no, our guys won't do it with it. It's weird that, so Board of Ed
Union
does
thing?
it. Board of
Union
Ed
thing?
does it. Huh?
Maybe you need a different guy to do it.
No,
Oh,
Bo, our
man.
guy, we gave him the option. We said, if you feel like you're gonna fall, let the Board of Ed pay for it.
But I'll be a tiebreaker. They also have an X mark for 20,000 in this year's capital plan.
And there's about 18 points in there we could probably shave off.
I've tried to move everything over as much as possible. I would say, if anything, I mean, the tennis courts, I don't know if anyone else is putting them in their capital plan, but they need something done at some point, whether it's, I mean, I hate putting a Band-Aid on it, but I mean, if resurfacing was the only option, it's kind of a Band-Aid to put on that won't last long.
But it's a 10-year fix, isn't it?
It's a 10-year fix if we get rid of those 10 pine trees that are there, which literally ruin the court because of the sap.
They're that close. Oh, it's
Oh,
because of sap. I'm sorry.
Well, the pine needles fall on it,
I
and so it just, and I think there's 8 on the roadside, and then there's, I think, 4 on the Rockwell side. So,
Bob, did you?
Rachel went where I was going to ask. I mean, we remember a few meetings ago now, we were given a warning of the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Brad, if the expectation is to talk about this now or at some later point.
So it all depends on what, we've been not really approving anything as part of the budget, vote, capital wise. So the last couple of years, because we've been using CNR or
Right.
fund balance, we've kind of during the budget just been bringing up stuff just so we're aware of it. And especially when you're talking about, like, you and I talked about this the other day, we've been funding CNR at 650. We know long-term that's not enough funding for the amount of work we have to do. But again, we're still trying to get to where we need to be. We were able to get roads to $1 million last year. So it's, really, we talk capital just to make sure that people are aware that there are big things. And in case any of the board members felt so strongly about it, that they wanted to push that ahead as part of the budget referendum. Like we used to do.
I just thought it might be helpful to hear
and it's sort of
Rachel's
timing,
position on this tennis court.
and it's
There was a
timing.
pretty dire prediction that we heard some meetings ago.
I think it was a couple of years ago, we've been talking about the tennis.
It's got good
courts.
cracks in it. I mean, it doesn't have cracks going through the main courts, but the side cracks, they're getting there. I mean, our guys kind of piecemealed one of the nets throughout the season with cement just to get it in the middle to hold down for high school sports. Now, does it bother me that, I mean, do they look horrible compared to maybe Danbury? Well, Danbury's new courts, yes, they look horrible, but like the high school courts, they need work. If they go through another big heave, they will get worse. They're not completely unsafe, but the cracks are pretty big if you've been up there between the courts. They're probably about this big. So you could patch them. I've had somebody come out and give me ideas of just doing the patchwork and the repaint, or doing the full. And again, like I said, it's all timing because obviously you can't do it in the spring. And you've got to worry about temperature and all those kind of things when you're doing it. So figuring out if and when, I mean, if you gave us if we somehow got the money, say in August, we probably would have to wait again till next summer to even consider doing it.
I think it might be helpful for our boards, for you to kind of put a finer point to it, Rachel.
Yeah.
Just a quick look, it is the largest item on the list that doesn't have fire truck next to it.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
and it's a very significant town asset.
Actually,
Yeah.
the splash pad is more.
No, it's
Yeah.
no splash
Don't
pad.
even say it.
Stop saying splash
Don't
pad.
even say it.
Oh, I took that
You
out.
still have it
recently,
in here.
Brad. I
Thank
took
you,
out
still
splash
have it in
pad.
here.
I knew it was always Brad's idea.
Brad's
for that part.
heartbroken.
Says right here.
So-
Splash pad.
25, 26, it was out, I didn't look
Oh.
that deep at it.
Well, the
Good
eight
job.
12 is what
Heads
they
up,
call the tension concrete, so it's a 20-year fix. So it's a bigger fix than just resealing, repainting, which is 10 years. So this would be literally from the ground, and I want to say, I believe Brookfield High School's tennis courts just did the concrete tension fix.
Look up. We know you've got a heavy load and that we've kind of put a higher
Yeah.
hurdle in front of you as far as kind of giving us the numbers and the
Yep.
purity of the numbers. I do think it would be helpful to get your expert opinion. What's your recommendation? You know, should we do it? Should we not do it?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm discounting, perhaps at my own risk, the splash pad.
No.
But
stop
the
saying
other, you know, among the other items, this is the largest.
I-
but for the fire trucks.
I think for the town, for just community usage, because, you know, if we were able to redo it, we would have permanent pickleball lines put on versus us just painting them on every couple months. On some of the courts, not all of them, but we'll probably end up doing all of them, but, I think for between Board of Ed use, community usage, our lessons, just people wanting to use them, I would think that would be a priority, because we're getting to a point where, you know, you don't want to get to a point where we're going to have to put a lock on the gate because you can't go in there because it's unsafe.
Right, not for tonight. I think I probably extended this discussion longer than what we really wanted. But perhaps at some point in the future, you can do a little finer point to cost benefit
Sure.
of doing the resurfacing versus,
Yeah.
Full blown out.
Absolutely.
It's probably worth, because they're not here too. You mentioned the Board of Education is very, very motivated to get these fixed as well. They actually have, I guess, a really great tennis star who, you know, we really don't have the best tennis courts for them to play on, but they've approached us multiple times as
They
well.
have track money.
So,
Well, I'm all about, you know, private funding for, you know, parts of things, and that's, you know, been successful in some areas, and I would think that there would be people in the community who would be willing to contribute towards the repair or replacement of a tennis court.
I know there's people that would be willing to contribute to
Well, baby, you
standalone
get
pickleball
out
courts.
there to the pickleball, you get those pickleball fanatics and, you know, hit them off. Because there are people that can afford to do that, and they would be happy to do it.
okay, so Brian, next.
But just really quickly, are there any items on your capital list that would actually reduce any amount of contracted services or anything along those lines that would maybe reduce the operating budget?
I mean, of our contracted services,
I mean, can you tell us what you do? What's currently being contracted? I know the police station, you
police
guys.
station, and Teed and Brown does a lot of free things for us, but the one thing they do is they do the Blue Star Memorial, just the seating, and the weed control, and we didn't contract with them to do the irrigation at the turf. We handle all the irrigation everywhere else. No, really, it's the police station and the extra for the police station. That's really our only true contract that we have. And I don't think we could cover it now with our 4 guys and everything else that we have to cover.
You do have, one of the items that you have in your capital plan, it's smaller, is the purchase of the storage container.
That would help our
so-
guys a lot.
So, but right now they have one that they rent for 6 months out of the year.
I
5
have
months
it
of the year.
rented through April. So it's just a typical storage container, and it's just to get it was to get our summer stuff out so that we were able to get all of our vehicles in for winter for if it ever snowed, so that they were able to clean them off and all that kind of stuff. So that would be helpful because, as you know, I mean, you accumulate a lot of stuff that you need in the shed, and with the 3 days, it's just not big enough for them to store everything. So for my guys, being able to purchase the storage container outright would be helpful for them, and just being able to kind of organize a little bit better.
But I think operationally, in your operating budget, it's gonna cost you like $1,200 for the storage unit. So it's not like a big change in it, but it's not also a big purchase price.
No, but we decided to put it in just because it would be nice to have for them.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your
Thank
input.
you.
Very much.
So next up, we have the Health Department, account 30-350.
Hi, everyone. I am passing around the tracking activity log that we do, that I always present to you. And I will integrate that with my request. I'll start on a real positive that you will see as you get this. The health department collected $62,439 in fees for services provided. We for those services that have fees, it should be the first page. We collected 80,000 in grant funding, and for a total of 142,000 that we brought in. If you turn the page, you can see what the grant funding that we successfully managed last year was. And I went after about 200,000 in grants this year, and we are operating with $139,000 in grants that give a lot of service to the public that you can look at anytime at your leisure. The next page is all the services. We probably assisted 4,000 community members last year, and this gives you at your time the ability to look at what services those included. And then I gave you on the last page the new lead laws that require more work out of the mental health department. And so
Can I ask you this one thing? The grant that you got for the nurse, so we carry money for a nurse in your salary.
Yes.
So the grant paid for that nurse, or was it an additional nurse?
No, the grant pays for COVID work,
Okay, so,
so then we
On
don't
top of
have
what
to
you-
pay for.
okay, so
It's
it's like
above
two
and beyond
nurses.
the budget.
Right, it's beyond the budget, everything beyond the budget.
Yeah, they're two separate things.
Sure.
Oh, no, that's okay. Great question. So my request for this budget is for $20,000, 20 hours a week for 50 weeks a year for administrative assistance in the health department to help businesses, residents in the community with their applications and the activities that they do with us. We are streamlining everything. We are going online. We want to build tutorials that are online. We still answer the phone, which our residents love. It's easy to get access to us for the services that they need, and we follow through. This person supports the businesses and the residents with required online and in-office work. They upload the legally required records and documents in our Mid-City and online system that we're required to have. They do the data entry for all the checks and fees that we do and make sure that they are reconciled for the finance office. They assist me with the grant contracts, and they gather research and facts for community members as they need it before they can get to me. So that's my ask is, I believe that this is an asset to us. And right now I am doing some of this work at my pay rate.
And so is another professional person. And I think that lower pay rate helps us provide more service to the public in a reasonable manner.
Laura, quick question for you. So right now, is there a person doing that already?
Well, in the past, the first selectman's office with HR, because we are always at high volume output, put someone in our office.
A floating
Yeah,
position? Is
no,
that-
yeah, well, they put someone in the health department so that we wouldn't slow down or not meet the benchmarks that the first selectman in the town want. So at one point, that was an HR benefit coordinator person, and there was someone that assists because I am still training our people. So the people that are getting certified to perform are at lower rates. So we haven't decreased in our timeliness because of those things. But I came to you last year and you said, do the best you can, Laura. And I did. But I really believe that this is a necessity and that we are in a good place. And I think that you're going to get a lot out of it that you've asked me for that I have taken seriously. Just on that.
So how would this work? You would pick obviously 20,000 is pretty part-time, right? How many hours are you expecting this to be?
Well, it depends on the person. And we just want the continuity for the public.
So you're gonna have office
mornings.
hours,
It
help
would be
with permit-
definitely
help with
when
permit
it's definitely when we're keeping the office open to help at the kiosk, to answer their questions, help them get everything that they need packaged up for whatever they're doing with us. So always.
But there'll
when
be
the
something
office-
out to the public knowing during these hours, if you have questions on permits, you need help filling out. Because honestly, I
Yes.
mean, I do it all the time and it's a puzzle to me, you know that sometimes going through all the things.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what it's like for a homeowner the first time
yeah.
they're trying to navigate
Exactly.
this. So
We're updating the website with Dan, and there's gonna be tutorials, and by subject type, they're gonna help us. And you could click on the button and listen to someone tell you how to do it, which is gonna be really cool. And, in 4 seconds, and then you will have you fillable form.
but I guess, kind of
And then
like
you
I'd
can
asked the
call.
building
We're
department,
gonna mark it.
I'd asked the building department, if this person is hired,
Yes,
they are actually gonna help citizens if they need help filling out a permit.
yes.
Okay, that's.
If that was, well, I mean, it's online services and some people want to come in and our town's been good about that. Some, depending on circumstances, so they're in-house too.
So just so the boards know, so this person was brought on during COVID initially, right?
A little before maybe.
Yeah, so around that time. And we've been able to keep this part-time, even though it's never been in the budget, because there's been openings of other positions. So, but right now, Laura's fully staffed. So there's enough money because she had an opening for a while to cover this person through 6:30. But the second we hit July 1, without approval of this $20,000 line item, assuming she doesn't lose anybody, she doesn't have money to pay the person anymore. So it's not, I understand when you're going,
It's not gonna be.
Chris had to shut his office, now he doesn't have to shut his office
Correct. No, he
anymore.
doesn't have to shut his office.
They currently have this person doing a lot of active work for them, but they've been able to work it into the current budget. When July rolls around, they won't be able to. And last July, they wouldn't have been able to, except they had turnover in staff.
Someone left.
And they had a vacancy for.
So what you're telling me, Brad, is we're not really increasing the service to the public. We're just stopping some of it from going away.
Yeah.
Some of that, but I have a plan that Dan and I and you
That
all
Brad
talked
doesn't
about.
know about.
No, he
Yeah, I
does.
know.
Brad, you
He
don't know
just
about this
doesn't know
one.
my people at all.
We're gonna move Brad's office
He's
down.
good
Yeah,
at
what's
secret
going on?
plans.
Come down out of
The thing is that we really truly, we want everything fillable online or in the office. And there's the kiosk there too, but people struggle, so they could do it either way. It's not only 20, like somebody says, 20 hours a week. So we will market that during these hours, if you want assistance, you can come. They help with the uploading. It takes like 45 minutes to do sometimes of those documents, but then you can all see it, so it's a benefit. So
So let me jump in for a second. So, one of the things that's really been important in the last year or so that I'm really trying to work with Laura is getting more of our services online. So the permitting systems, all that sort of stuff, folks can do it online. One of the difficulties has been is what we use is called municity. And municity is not really built for health departments so much. So it's taken a little bit longer, I think, to get the health department to a place where we can do all the permitting that we're starting to do with building department, planning, zoning, and that
we're
sort of stuff.
designing it.
So
We
that
can't
is,
sell
I think, part of this is that having this extra body to, I shouldn't say continuing the body, is the best way to say it. It's helping us get to that point where we can get more things online, make it easier for our customers. And by the way, use less personnel time down the line. I
And
know
we're
this sounds
using the users to
That's what
give
the
us
whole plan was.
feedback.
that's what the
We
whole
want
plan
this.
is.
Sure.
Yep.
So we're adding.
And we're getting there. But I think with health department, because of the nature of what they do, it's taken us longer to customize the forms to get that where it needs to be. Now, I think, at some point in spring, early summer, we'll be a lot further than we are.
Okay.
But I think that's part of it, just so everybody understands why they're pushing for it.
Can I
Go ahead, go ahead,
just jump in
go
real
ahead.
quick? So you have 4 full-time employees. Let's get back to the nurse. You have a
Oh,
paid
yes,
nurse.
yes.
Okay, and then you have a medical advisor.
Yes.
Go back. So if you go to contracted services, you
No.
have another nurse, and then there's a
Well,
52.
Brad is going to help
So-
us with.
So we're gonna
that.
get rid of that one?
We've been looking at that and we
Explaining
think it carried over from the prior year. We think the 3,000 in salary line is an outdated thing when we used to use the Bethel VNA.
This
So-
is what it was.
She emailed me last night. I answered at 9:30. I was at a conference all day today. One of the tasks for tomorrow is whether or not that $3,000 can come out.
Yeah, so Nick, and when
Well,
this is
Prior
what-
year was,
this is how it was.
Okay.
And we got to a point, maybe 7 years ago, where none of the nurses wanted to do the tuberculosis control work. So we had none of the VNA nurses. So they still did other services for us. So we had to bring in someone specifically to work with the doctor and I to do the TB work. And so that 3,000 at that time was just specifically for the TB work that we did.
I'm looking at a line of 20,000,
Yes,
and the new request is 25,000. Where's the 3 coming from?
The 3 is in the salary line. It says health nurse, $3,000.
But that's not in contracted services. No.
I asked
Yeah,
him to-
but this is another nurse in contracted
No.
services.
So it's the same
It's not.
nurse. The question that she asked last night is if it's a duplicate of an outdated, when we used to have the health nurse that we employed very part-time for $3,000 and Bethel VNA. When the public health nurse started doing the work that VNA was doing, it all moved to contracted services and the 3,000 never came out of salaries, is what my assumption is now, but I have
It's
to
a
dig
zero.
into it.
It should have been a zero.
But that's why
So we're not
last year
carrying the
between
25?
Yes,
but-
the 3 is gone.
The 3 on the salary line.
310.
Correct. So last year, we had 3 and 20.
Okay.
This year, we're gonna have 0 and 25 is my assumption. I just have to dig into it. But again,
Well, I had a second request.
yeah.
So we actually talked about this. The RVNA Health has come out and done a number of the vaccinations and things like that. That's not out of that.
No.
3,000.
No.
Okay.
Cynthia?
Right, the part-time employee,
I'm sorry.
the true part-time employee, or are they filling another position somewhere else?
All they do is work in the health department.
And then how many hours a week?
So the request was for 20.
15 to 20.
I ran what we've
Depends on our
done.
volume and what we're creating.
So just for my own benefit, sitting here, I just ran from last February to this February. We've paid the person $13,500. So my question for you, Laura, not to put you on the spot,
Uh-huh.
is putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
But if the board didn't want to go the whole 20, the hours that they've been working over the last 52 weeks, obviously, I would assume that's better than nothing. So if the request went down to You'd have to
You
bump it up a
always
little
say
bit.
that to me, but I won't be able to.
It's gonna be
produce
everybody.
less.
It's not just you.
Thank you. I feel better.
We're not gonna
No, no, I
discriminate.
just want to
But
know
so
how
like-
loyal he is.
Yeah.
He always, so, but, we needed to get where you want to go online and in the office. I think it's a compliment to what's being produced by the health department. And we stuck, even though I saw that 3 and I asked Brad to get rid of it, we stuck to the 20,000. And why I want the nurse, my second
Brad's been
request
screwing up all
was
Don't worry.
my second, no, but I want to stay humble. My second request was to take the nurse from 9.5 hours a week just for our work, infectious disease and lead, to 12 hours.
Again,
And how this started was we stay in our budget. And when I asked the nurse to give me where she was at, and we looked at it with Brad, she was like at about $18,000 now because of TB and lead cases. And so we're 7 months in, and I had to get to July. So I got a little nervous, and I went to Brad and I said, Brad, what do I do? But I told this board in the past that I don't have control over TB and infectious disease. Otherwise I would send it away.
Eliminate
And
it.
so I said,
Sure.
please be on warning. And should I look at this with the board honestly, because we're growing. And as we've gotten growing, we're adding some of the work.
we'll make that adjustment offline and get that all set.
Yeah, and we'll look at it more. And
We
her
haven't gone
public health
over
nurse
yet.
is running higher this year. That's why she was stressing about it. But other things are running lower. So
Mhm.
7 months through the year, of the $140,000 she has budgeted right now for contracted services, she spent 77 or 48%. So right now, even though we're gonna have a larvicating bill, larviciding, whatever, mosquito bill in May, that's bigger. The numbers are trending to a good spot that I think we're okay to cover it. Health department last year, I mentioned, and I'll mention it again, she has to meet the needs of depending on what the infectious diseases are. And we try to budget to the middle, like last year was a good year and she didn't spend as much as she had budgeted. And hopefully that continues, but we try to budget towards what we think an average year for what the needs are. And we have to come back to you if it's above that. And if it's below that, she doesn't spend it elsewhere. She has a strong history of returning money, but it's, you know,
It's also worth, I just want to throw out there too. There are some things coming that we're always not really sure about. More issues with salt, PFAS, some of the things we do. The lead is becoming a bigger issue. So the health department is frequently getting more things from the state to do in general. I've been watching that over the last year. It's been steady.
Cynthia, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to that, the part-time, the 20,000 and ask, maybe this is covered, but are you saying that there is a person who's been handling this and they were paid 13,500
yes.
and now they're, the same person's gonna be paid 20,000 to work more hours? I'm
It's
trying to
the
think,
same pay rates, just more
Okay,
hours.
Yes.
and I wanted to know, what is it per hour?
Oh,
What,
it's 20 an hour.
$20 an
20
hour?
an hour for, 20 an hour.
And how many hours a
And
week?
so
Would be 20 hours a week,
for 50 weeks.
would be 20,800 if they would 50.
Right.
Yeah.
And, okay, and the other thing is, because you were talking about how you're training people,
Right.
this is a person who's already trained and has been doing it, like helping the public fill out the forms and doing it? Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't, you
We're
know,
learning new things. We're developing the software for the online
gotta always learn new
services.
things.
No, and streamlining the
Yeah,
form.
I know.
So that's why I asked the question earlier. I know the request is 20 and I'm respecting your request of 20 that we run the boards. Is you've been running in that like 15-hour because you've had to live within your budget with what savings you had with other things, that I'm just trying to give the board an option. If the option is 20 or 0 to maintain what she's kind of been doing with this person, it's 13 or 13.5. And with this $3,000 adjustment, it's really $10,000 can come out of her salary line and still at least give her what she has now.
Gotcha.
But my request is.
Yeah,
the
her request is
fund
20. I'm just trying to,
wow.
Right, no, we have that part of
Yeah, and then
it.
if you
He's
wanted
doing voodoo
to
magic
see-
right now.
No, that's okay. If you wanted to see the grants and see the work that we do with that, or if you wanted to see the infectious disease documents, they're available at any time.
We have to tell Katrina Rowe we're not paving it tonight, so it's gonna take a little bit of time.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura.
So if it's okay with everybody, I would suggest we take a 10-minute recess.
Yes.
Is that about
Here,
Katrina
here.
Rowe?
No.
Is that a motion? Are you making a motion?
Okay, so like a motion, from the board of selectmen for.
Make a motion that
I'll
we
make the
adjourn for
motion.
10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so, we stand at recess there, Mary, if you would,
Yes.
go ahead and stop recording and go to mute.
Here. I think we're.
Recording.
Back at
Yeah, please,
8:40.
there you go, back at 8:40. Call the meeting back to order. All right, now, we have the, police department, and, Mr. Rubino is the new chair of the police commission.
So, good evening, Anthony Rubino, chairperson for the Bethel Police Commission. I am here tonight with Chief Pugner to present the 2024-2025 budget that the board has in front of them. The Bethel Police Commissioners are all in favor of this proposed budget that you have tonight. At this time, I will turn it over to Chief Stephen Pugner to answer all your questions.
All right, I don't know how you want me to go about this, or want me to go line by line, or whatever.
Maybe just the highlights. I mean, everybody has the numbers, so if you want to go down with changes. and-
The changes, so obviously the biggest change is the salary line, and that was due to contract negotiations of two different union contracts. So Brad actually broke it down a little bit differently to show that even though shows as a big increase, it really, can't say it's not a big increase, but he showed the difference of, because there was contingency money for that already. But now we have to have that in our budget and the numbers that we're negotiating moving forward. Other than salary, the other big thing is in the capital, we remember last year we asked for 4 cars. We ended up only getting 2 in the operating budget. So it looks like we're doubling our cars, but we're really not, if that makes sense, because we ended up getting at least one of the other cars last year out of, I think you guys might have taken that out of CNR.
Or CNR. I think it was the ARPA money.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
You got 2 trucks. We did one out of each, right? The Tahoes we bought.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
that was
we
the year
did one out
before.
of ARPA and one out of
Yes, CNR.
CNR, right?
Yeah.
That was the year before last.
Yeah, but honestly, it's getting confusing.
Okay.
I think that was last year. wasn't it,
Yeah.
Over the
Last-
summer we did that.
So, yeah, so my point, I was trying to make the point is. we
In your
usually-
operating budget, you see a big change,
Because
but
we
you did
usually
get
have
the cars
4 in
because
there.
it came from other revenue.
Correct. And the other, and I'm skipping around here a little bit, the other big increase here is in contracted services. And one of the reasons, when we built the new building, there was a lot of service contracts that we kind of didn't know about that all of a sudden came to fruition that now we have to pay for. It was covered for free for the first 5 years. Now you have a maintenance contract for all the integrated security and video system. That's one of the biggest increases in contracted services. And a couple smaller increases is now that the range is almost complete. We had the budget to maintain the range, change the filters. So that's in there.
I'm sorry, what was that? What did you cover or carry for that? In contracted services?
No, that would be actually in
Yeah.
equipment and supplies. The range maintenance for $3,500. It's a smaller item. I'm just picking things out that's still high percentage increases. And just trying to. That's really the big, obviously the salary is the biggest and the cars. And then I don't know if you have any particular questions about, we didn't ask for any additional that's another part of, we were given a half a police officer last year. So now we have to absorb that other half into this year's budget, if that makes sense. And that's really it. Over time, I went back and I asked for what has been being spent over the last 4 to 5 years. That was cut a little bit last year. I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was cut 30,000. Does that sound right? Something like that. Ballpark 30 to 40,000. And I just asked for what I asked for last year. So that number actually didn't go up, and salaries went up.
And there's a separate line for dispatch overtime too, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes. So. Yeah, dispatch overtime. I just want the same thing. I went back and I asked for what I asked for last year. Yep.
So we have the numbers there.
Yep.
Is there any landscape money that you carried in this budget for mulch or
Nope.
snow plowing? Because it was all kind of mixed up a few years ago.
A few years back, we actually were gonna put it in our budget. We came in front of you guys.
It's not in your budget.
It's not in our budget, and they got moved over to Park and Rec.
Yes, I remember that.
The prior year reduction to overtime was 20,000. The increase this year you asked for is 24, so it's $4,000 difference over last year's request.
And you'll give us the 5-year history when we start talking. Right, the past history.
Yes,
That was a weird yes, but that's fine. I'll take it as a yes. Price?
of course.
Do
Yes,
you
thank
own your own server for like your cameras outside, monitoring? Is that a server that you maintain, or does that go to a cloud to a private company?
For the,
Yes, no. There's a server in-house, and there's a server that is, the video comes through, is processed, and it is uploaded into a cloud, but there's also local storage as well.
Okay. And is that combined with your tasers and all that as well, or the
That is
PD's totally
completely
separate?
That's actually a completely separate server altogether. It's not even tied into our main server.
And this was just cameras around the building, I'm sorry.
So these are just interior, like building cameras, exterior cameras, interview room cameras, the general.
Everything around or in the
audio.
What is a service contract? Like, are you like renting the DVR and they agree to repair anything, or
No,
what's the
so-
service contract?
So the service contract is, if we have any issues with any of the equipment or anything like that, they won't even answer. We don't pay them, they won't even answer the phone, pretty much. Like, if we have a problem with something, we're kind of out to drive.
This is ISG.
No, this is Genetech. Genetech. Well, Signet, but the product is Genetech.
Anybody have any questions?
How many officers do you have right now?
how many officers?
Something and a half.
Including my position, 43.
Can I piggyback on that? So, and the goal of the commission and the police department with the current growth, the needs moving forward, what do you think the magic number that we're looking to get to?
As we
in
sit,
officers?
as we sit here and talk right now, it'd be 45.
45.
Would that change in 3 or 4 years when we
Yeah,
add
and that's why I asked.
more
that.
apartments?
So
and
it's a
more-
moving number, right, but there's no real.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and again, we talked about it for a long time at the police commission meeting, if we were gonna ask for another officer or a half officer this year, because there's still a need there. But we know that we've been, Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen have been very generous over the last few years and given us manpower. So we've caught up to close to where we should be.
How much longer is your current contract with the officers before that gets renegotiated?
It'll be a year from July.
The contract ends, this is the last of year, the contract, the budget we're working on now.
So wage contingency account, how much did that go down from last budget?
So as part of the wage contingency account, there goes my file. The 24 budget had $253,000 in the wage adjustment account for police and dispatch, which both were up.
Right.
The contract that was done exceeded that by $65,000. So, but the police, by the time it was done, was 2 years of raises, and now this is the 3rd year of raise budget wise.
So we're starting the contract again.
Yeah.
Next year.
It just seems like we're always talking about that. Chief, obviously, how do you figure out that you need another officer? Is it a response time? Is it overtime? Is it a little of everything?
It's a little of everything. Like right now, there's a lot more that keeps on getting put onto us. Like just like with the video and body cameras, and now courts are saying we have to save everything for a year. And now, the FOI requests are coming out of the woodworks because people know we have these video cameras. So now getting like a little,
No, you
Car
don't forget, I
accident.
don't have to get in the weeds, but
Yeah, there
so
is,
are you gonna change minimum,
so, all right. So yeah,
that's kind of what dictates labor, right? How many you need on the street.
you're right. So right now, the minimum staffing is 4 on the day shift, 4 on the evening shift. We really wanted to get it to that we have 4 on the midnight shift as well. We'll go down this few as 3 officers. That includes the supervisor on midnights.
So it's 3 plus the supervisor?
No, 3 with a
So
supervisor.
it's 2.
Yeah.
On one night, it
Yeah.
would be 2 and a supervisor.
So the
it's 3
goal
total.
is, my goal is to have the 4-man minimum midnights, because when something happens in the middle of the night, it's not like during the day where we can pull an SRO if we have to, or, a lieutenant from the office or whatever.
But there's a lot of times you have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get vacation and sick time and all that, and but how many times do you get to minimum?
It
Just
depends
a
on the
rough
timing.
guess. A week. How many times a week?
This past year, often on midnights, I'd say the whole fall that were midnights, minimum almost every single night.
All fall.
Yeah, because we were short so many officers and we were able to catch up a little bit, so now it's not as bad.
How many are out right now with military or workman's comp?
Let's see, 1, 2, and we have a 3rd one that's gonna be going out, and a 4th one that's on maternity leave. So, but that's kind of like, you're gonna get that.
You're always
no
gonna
matter-
get, you're never gonna be 100%.
But in the fall, between people being out injured and people retiring, we were at one point, we were down like nine guys. When I say guys, 9
Nine
positions, 9 people. Yes, correct. So that's why we were at minimum often, and that's why the overtime spiked up in the fall and things like that.
How often are folks out for training?
A good amount of time. I mean, right now, a third of our force is getting recertified. And they spent a week, either at WestCon or I think we're doing Bridgeport this year. too. So like people that live down that way, lieutenant will send people down that way because they live closer to Bridgeport, and people up here will go to WestCon usually January. So that takes you out, and there's other different types of training as well, but that's the mandatory stuff.
How many
we have to
times
do.
canine train a year?
Canine, they each train once a month, minimum.
So
With, like,
12
regional-
times, 12
Yeah,
shifts.
yeah.
And there's 2 canines now?
There's 2 canines, yes, correct.
And the commission supported two
Yeah.
canines. So we have 2 guys training.
Yes, correct.
Right, once a
Correct. Yep.
In the price of dog.
Just because they're training doesn't necessarily mean the shift's gonna be short.
No, not necessarily.
But it
Six
will, it could make it.
officers,
And, we
they
actually
made
made
up
it
for
so
time.
in the contract that it was just negotiated that they can't.
They're
work
never on the
this-
same shift.
Correct.
Also, with canine training, I happened to notice they were doing it across the street the other
Yeah,
day,
yep.
and there were other people, like Danbury or somebody.
Yeah.
Well, they normally
They
train
were-
with big groups.
They train with
don't they?
different
Yeah.
groups, and they were not
Yeah.
always out of town.
Yeah, one of ours is a shepherd in general purpose, which most people have departments. And our second is a bloodhound now. So there's not as many bloodhounds around, but so he usually trains with a group out of Westchester County and sometimes the state police, but there's a couple other in the
How many
state.
times mutual aid will you be called out?
Not often, but we do get called out. If he'll shoot out, I'm trying to remember where he lives.
2-3 times a year?
No, more than that. Yeah, yeah. It's usually when they're working, another town will ask, and it's usually, the favor is always returned.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
mutual aid, yeah, I get it, I get it. Anybody have any questions down here?
You do have 2 items on the.
Yeah, one quick question with respect to training. I know the $5,000 initiative.
Oh, yes.
What's the scoop? I mean, you mentioned a while back that the state's doing a lot.
So not to bore you guys to death, because I know we probably have the same conversation every year. But the police academy the Meriden used to just provide all this free training, and you could just go to this training and the state would cover the cost. Well, now they cut down the training to almost bare minimum, and the stuff that they do have, we have to pay for now. So most of the time we find ourselves going to outside vendors for some of the training because they don't offer it up there. So the training class that used to be free for an officer is now like $900 or $1,000 for
Each time.
whatever it is, like accident reconstruction. Now we have to go through a private company. It's expensive, but you have to have officers that have that specialized training when things go wrong.
And one other question I have, sorry.
Sure, no.
The fingerprints lease.
Yep.
Went up dramatically.
Yep.
That's not something we can buy, or is that, software based?
Nope, that's, the state mandated. That's what we have to use. That's what we have to use, and here it is.
It has to be leased.
Yep.
Okay.
On those unfunded minutes.
Well, the, another, just really quick, just example, training, I'm just speaking to the Lieutenant today. The academy is gonna stop training our officers in medical training. That means when they get finished the academy, we have to turn around and train them in EMR training, which, how much is it for?
800.
So something else, everybody, everything just keeps getting pushed down to us from the state.
How many hours is that EMR training?
60.
They can't go on the road until they're EMRs.
They can, but
They can't go medical calls.
yeah, so it's 2 weeks. I mean, the academy voted to do away with it. And it's unfortunate because of most police agencies in Connecticut, with the exception of the really large agencies, their officers as EMRs. You get like the bigger, like New Haven, Bridgeport, Hartford, they let it lapse. They have paid services and they don't use their police officers like that. So, but all the smaller agencies in Connecticut do, and the academy voted to do away with it. So now
It's on us.
it's on us to do it. So.
And then, and again, just to that point, the academy itself used to send a new recruit used to be $0.
And there's a fee.
Now it's $5,000 each person we send up there. So it started at 1,000. Here we are. I'm sure it'll be 10,000 in a couple of years.
Brad, the capital on there?
So the police department has 2 items listed on there. The first one is $75,000 for an animal control vehicle. And the second one is the first of 4 straight years at roughly $45,000 in the taser contract.
Bro, why wouldn't we put that in operating? That's
what I was
gonna
gonna
be,
ask.
that's gonna be,
But it-
well, because yeah, it's gonna happen for now until,
but I think is it the replacement of trade tasers over time?
No, it's the whole, it's all of them. And it's a 4-year contract.
because your contract, they replace your tasers, like, is it you're leasing them and then they replace them at the end of the contract, or is yours just, how does it work?
So like anything that you do now, it's like software. You can't even go to the store and buy like Microsoft Office. You gotta pay Microsoft $50 a month to use Word.
Something bought, right?
So everything is subscription based, and all these companies that's doing the same thing with video services, with the tasers, it's the same thing. Oh, you want a taser? Okay. It's $50 a cop per month per taser, for 5 years. And it's like, then we'll give you all these tasers. That's the way they're good. You can't just say, I want to go to, you can't even, it's like walking into Home Depot and say, I'm going to buy a hammer, and you won't believe in the hammer. It's like,
But
you gotta pay them.
This will be here basically until the state says you can't use tasers. I mean, it's not like we're not gonna be,
Right.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost belongs in operating. because-
Yes.
And I was gonna put it there, actually. We talked about it.
But I think cameras, it's the same thing. I mean, just
Yeah.
how much, almost
Yeah.
10,000 for that. That's 5 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Cynthia?
Yeah, I just want to ask, because I saw the tasers too, and I'm thinking, wouldn't that be more like operating like under armory operations?
We did have it underneath there
Okay.
when we did it last time. And it was one of the things that
Brad did.
I strategized with Brad. I'm not-
Another mistake.
Brad.
Brad.
No, we-
We're back to Brad.
And we recognized it could have gone either place. You
Yeah.
Said it.
Tire checks, right?
So sometimes too with this though, the actual thought is too, it's spread out over 4 years, but sometimes when you negotiate with them and you say, hey, we have the money, we could pay it up front.
Right, I see.
They might be able to do a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
That was the quote I was given. So that's another
Gotcha.
reason it's like this.
So the 75 is for 4 years or 5 years? worth
No,
of-
no,
45.
40.
75 was the ACO vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
it's
like,
44,000 a year. It's not for 4 years. It's 44,000 a year.
A year.
4,000
year.
a year.
but when we did the body cameras, that's a 5-year contract, but we got a better price because we did it all up front.
Yeah.
And then we did get state grant that paid some of it back, which is another reason that we did it up front.
Yes.
What kind of vehicle is the canine?
So right now he has I think it's 2000.
150.
Yeah, it's F-150. I think it's in 2011 and 2012. And it doesn't, the mileage isn't the issue with it. It's just now it's 13 years old and it's really starting to rust out.
Yeah, I was just wondering that.
And then
75,000,
I
that's
think
what I
I
wanted
could
to
speak
know.
to the condition of it too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a $45,000 state bid truck. Why are we 75?
Well,
That's what I wanted. to
it's
know.
it's more like probably 50,000 now.
Okay, so
So,
we can
but then,
adjust that.
I was given
but
75.
you got,
Don't think.
we didn't actually go out physically get a price yet. This is a budget number. It could be less than that. But I just wanted to, if there's
I
any,
prefer estimating low, and then,
Yeah.
that's just me.
yeah, so then you have to go over. budget,
$49, not 50.
Then if I go over, then you guys are all mad.
We'll have that discussion later.
Not all of us, just one person.
No, but in reality, it's probably a little bit lower than that, Nick. There is the cap that whatever
I
thing
got
we're
it.
gonna do in the
Fix it up
back.
and put the radio in and all that.
And we do use it more than as an animal control vehicle. It's also used when there's big storms to move barricades around, things like that as well.
Looking to next year, what's the carport? What's
So
that cap?
when the police department was built, we were supposed to have a carport that comes off of where the range is. Basically, it runs the whole length of the range that would make that cars could park under cover. So they don't get, covered in snow or whatever. And the way the building's designed, you walk out the back door and you're under cover all the way out to the back of your cars.
Does it have walls or is it just like a?
No, it's just a roof that kind of.
Roof backed up to the building.
Correct. Correct. So, we've had this and we keep on kind of just pushing it back, but it's something that we would really like to have at some point. Cause I think it was one of they didn't call it cuts, they called it value engineered.
It's an adjustment. It's not-
Oh, okay. I'm
But-
getting a
But it
big
was,
comment.
it was originally in the plans. for the building.
And additionally, you want to expand the parking lot as well.
So one of the valued engineered things that they did, and this one actually I was really upset about when they did it, they cut the parking spaces in the back lot. I think at the time it saved like $20,000 or something like that. But now the problem is all the power and the lamp posts are moved over. So now you would have to move all that stuff, but we're already, I've done the parking in the back. Is there parking up front? Yeah, there's parking up front, but the parking in the back gets filled up all the time now.
There's a Sally Port there, right? I'm embarrassed. I don't know that.
Yeah,
It's a Sally Port.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other
Rich, any
questions?
on there? So thank you very much.
I have one question though. So before I left the commission a couple of years ago,
Oh, anyway, this is one.
we had a conversation with the Board of Finance and when Kozlowski was here. And I asked him, why can't money be put aside for when road jobs are being done? They are being charged for the use of a vehicle. Okay, so I have a whole list here of from 2006 to present of how much money they have collected. But if I just went back right now from 2024 to 2018, 7 years, they collected $655,000 in use of cars. I don't know, it was supposed to start when I left. I don't think it's been done. I don't know why money isn't being put aside for replacement of patrol vehicles.
Does the charter allow a revenue to go to a specific department account? We would have to, it may be that the charter requires all revenues going to the general fund. This would be my guess.
Yeah.
And that part is carried as
put
well.
So let me,
We talked about this.
so 2 budgets ago, so in the revenue for the mill rate calculation, there's a line called police other. It's the use of the cars. It used to, for the longest time, we budgeted at $100,000. When Matt Knickerbocker was first selectman, we had the idea, if you just took that 100 out, it's going to affect the mill rate to the tune of $100,000. So 2 years ago, so fiscal year 23, that 100,000 was reduced to 75 on the thought that at some point the Board of Selectmen would vote and have to get the Board of Finance on board with it too, that anything above the budgeted revenue number that the police collected, so 75,000 and $1 from then on, would go to a special account to replace police equipment. We did the reduction to 75. It was never brought to the Board of Selectmen to act on it further. A year ago today, Dan Carter took over as first selectman. We talked about it last budget season, and the thought at that point was, let's hold the line for a year. So for fiscal year 24, the budget was kept, revenue budget was kept at $75,000 of revenue for police vehicle use. And really a decision hasn't been made, and the current revenue projection has 75 still. And in 22, they collected 71,400. Last year it was 113. 2021 it was 170. It's all over the place.
117 or
170.
170.
Yeah.
Just depends on how big a project.
It's very volatile.
Well, all I'm asking is if you just discuss it amongst yourselves again, because, you know, if you put that money aside for a special account, that affects this police budget as well. We're just talking patrol vehicles, not the detective cars, not the chief or the captain's car.
You're talking about,
Patrol.
you're talking about set it aside after
After the revenue.
the revenue,
70.
Well, I
after you
think-
hit the 75, because you know,
Have
otherwise
money in the
there's a,
account.
there's a
They
change
need
in
a car.
power rate.
Well, he was originally asking for all of it.
No, well, I mean.
I kinda thought that.
So,
Okay.
No, but,
Right.
no, this is it's not uncommon that towns do that, actually. Reading does that. Reading does it, Darien does it. There's a state law that allows you to establish a special account for police. It doesn't necessarily have to be cars, but the revenue comes back to the police station.
So the initial plan when we dropped from 100 to 75 was to do $25,000 a year, so that eventually it would switch over without having $100,000 impact of revenue in a single year.
In a single
It was going to be, the revenue part was going to be phased out, and then over that time,
Anything above.
this would go in there and it would reduce it. But obviously, we had change over in the first selectman, and we've paused at 75. And right now we're at 75. And if the boards don't want to do it, we should probably go back up to 100. And if the boards are kind of on board with it, we should go down to 50 and continue the plan of it.
But that's for another day.
That's another
I think that's a
discussion.
great conversation.
But I just wanted to bring it up while we're here
Thank
tonight
you for
again.
bringing it up again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, fleet maintenance, 4220.
Good night, everyone.
Hi, guys. How you doing, Ed?
Not bad. It's been a year.
Thanks for sticking by, yeah.
I'm gonna try to make this as simple and painless as possible.
We're not.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's what you're
I've been
saying.
married 37 years. I'm prepared for the hard questions. I'm pretty much like, here, I'm gonna bulletproof for every, you know,
You got a vest on that?
I do. Just the major stuff that has gone up. So we're gonna go down, start with 206, equipment and supplies. My fluid budget has gone up by just $200, and that's most of everything that's gonna happen tonight, and what I'm gonna explain to you is the price of everything's gone up. So that's the $200 is mostly, it's probably gonna cover the cost. We got 2 new Peterbilts, as everybody knows. That fluid costs money. So those are 2 more vehicles that are taking that fluid from me. So that's why we budgeted that to that. Then we're gonna go down to miscellaneous tools, repairs, you know. That is mostly gonna cover, I'm expecting, one of my jacks is starting to act up. So I'm probably gonna have to replace that as shop thing. The air one to go into the truck to lift it up when I need to adjust the brakes during a snowstorm or during, which I know, Nick, is one of your favorite topics to make fun of Bob, when we're paving the roads. And that truck has to come in because we use it. So that's why that budget has gone up. Well, it's just still 2,500 because things wear and tear. And a lot of my jacks are like 10, 12 years old and they're starting to show their age. The other up is on software, supplies and subscriptions. That's just going to cover the cost of my subscriptions going up because I have like all demand, pro data and stuff like that. So when I have to repair things, I can go into there to look up, right, this is how I fix this, this is how I fix that. And I have a couple computers that are on a subscription, so I can update the software for the newer vehicles that we have. So I can repair those in a timely fashion. Okay, now we're going up to maintenance on the highway vehicles. General repairs have gone up. Hopefully we will not go over this year because I think we got it all out of our system last year, but once again, the price of stuff has gone up and a couple of our trucks have gotten older. So they need more TLC. I've gone up on the tire budget by $2,000, and that is because we got 2 new trucks, and on the big trucks, in the wintertime, I put studded snow tires on the rear instead of chains.
We found it's more efficient, and as you know, Nick, when the chains break, a lot of stuff happens underneath, ripping out airlines, brake cans and stuff like that. The studded snow tires takes care of that, and we put them on the end of November, and we take them off in the beginning of April. So they're tires and rims.
I was gonna say this.
It's the tires and rims, and then we mark what truck they came off of, so they go back onto the truck that they came off of. So that's the basic expenses on my budget. Now we're going to the police department. General repairs has gone up because we've gotten some new cars, and which was a shock to me, like last month. Brake parts have gone up a lot. We've had a newer Tahoe, and Rick and I do all the work in-house, and I ordered brakes and rotors, front and rear, just for a Tahoe. Our cost, they were only available through Chevy, was $1,100 for the parts. Whereas my Fords have been paying $500 for front and rear.
So switching to the vehicle is
There's the pros and cons that, just that I'm expecting the Ford brakes to go up too. Supply demand, you know how that works, but I'm budgeting for the new Tahoes that we have. That's the biggest expense I've seen so far on the vehicle repairs. So that's the big nut there. Park and Rec, it's minimal, but their equipment's getting older too. So that is because of materials has gone up. Building maintenance, the same way. It's a small fleet, but I have 2 vehicles that are like 95s and 96s. So they're more in the shop than not. Off to administrative vehicles, we got a new vehicle, so that's why that went up. So I'm just adding close to $1,000 for me. We have an old Explorer from the police department that is now used in the administrator, so that's just going to add more to our budget for another vehicle. And
that covers the senior van comes out of that account too, right?
some of it does too, yes. Yeah, there's like 500, 600, depending on the yearly inspection is like 300, I think. I have to check my records, and then oil changes and stuff, we'll grab it out of there to keep senior price down. And then clothing allowances because everything has gone up. Now I will handle the questions.
Brian's got a question.
When I'm looking at your budget,
Yes, sir.
the total increase was roughly 32,000.
Yes.
I mean, over a third of that is because you've requested almost 14,000 in additional overtime.
Yeah, when 8 years ago, we had 3 mechanics. Now our fleet has gotten bigger and there's only 2 of us. So a lot of times myself and Rick Studwell do not have enough time during the week to finish what is going on with the police cars and stuff. And we'll go in on Saturdays with nobody bothers us. They know that we're there, and we can get a lot more done that way.
Okay.
I figured that was cheaper than hiring another mechanic.
But you've been doing that for a while, now,
Yes,
haven't you?
yes.
So what is the extra? I mean, we carried that work
Right,
on
salaries
Saturday.
have gone up.
Salaries went up.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if you look at the prior year actual, it's 181 versus the budget year that 24, we budgeted 174. We didn't have all the data on the overtime stuff. I actually increased that because I put the salary numbers together. So I put the note in their prior 12 months, it's 33,500.
What the overtime was.
Yeah. So just trying to budget the actual there.
Right, but a third of I just want to make sure that I understand. So
yeah,
roughly a third of over a third. I mean, it's almost just shy of a half comes to an increase in workload and overtime.
Right. And really just budgeting to what the actual is. It's not even, it's not like trying to meet like new needs. It's just what they've been doing.
And to our defense, I'm gonna guess.
There's no value judgment here. I just want to.
Yeah,
make
no,
sure
no,
I
but like,
understand.
I'm
So you don't
gonna,
need to
not
defend
just to
yourself.
us.
I just want to
not-
know what's going
not-
on.
Not just to us working, like coming in on Saturdays and stuff like that, but when the police, the paramedics get a flat tire, we get called at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, my car's stuck. So we get 3 hours for that. Our contract says we get 3 hours overtime.
And do you come in during, like, if there's a snowstorm, do you guys
Yes.
have to come in the whole snowstorm?
Yes, yes.
And that makes sense, obviously.
Yeah.
And I can verify.
Yes, yes, you can.
Why did he run off the road?
No.
No,
he told me-
He had a flat tire.
I wanted that story. I wanted that story.
No, not yet.
Couldn't get that
But
one
I'll
on.
video if it happens, if there's money in it.
I surprised him at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
during the
Yes.
story.
Wow, this doesn't happen. Yes, sir.
Can you just, I mean, I haven't welded a frame in a couple of years, you know, because the winters have been light. Can you just let us know what you're doing on a Saturday you can't get done during the week? I mean, the workload must be a lot less on your equipment anyway, when you.
No,
when you're
it's
great.
police cars finishing off service on the trucks, administration of vehicles. Like if I had like, this winter hasn't been as bad, but if I've had breakdowns with the plows and stuff, I'll put a spare plow on. I'll go on Saturdays to finish that plow to put it back into service. Or if a major truck, like last year, we had a couple of Peterbilts down with turbos and stuff like that. So I was going in instead of doing my regular service to fix that truck to get that back into service.
So is this every Saturday, a couple guys?
Just me and Rick. I'm gonna
Okay.
say, I'm
Every
gonna say
Saturday?
90%. Yes,
90%?
yes.
How many total vehicles, like the police cars, I'm assuming you change oil every 3,000 miles? Or is it-
It's
Should be fine.
3 to 5. 3 to 5, yes.
Okay.
And there's
Yeah.
30.
How many vehicles in
How
our
many
I
lights are
can
modded
tell
here?
you
How many
plated
lights I can
vehicles,
take care?
I believe plated vehicles for the town of Bethel is like 125 to 130. That two of us are in charge of.
And I know this is tough to like, but like on average, how often does one of those vehicles have to come through your shop for service?
They all do.
Whether, I'm just saying, how many times, like, what I'm saying, like the police cars, when I was a policeman, even though we use the synthetic oil, they change it every 3,000 miles. So those cars were getting serviced fairly regularly. I'm just saying, what's the average amount of times, like you have 130 vehicles? How many times a year are you servicing those vehicles?
I'm gonna say, the administration twice a year, probably every 6 months. Police cars rotate. The highway department, 2 to 3 months, depending on what vehicles are out there. The paramedic cars are thrown in with the police cars. Sometimes those are more. Sometimes it's like once a month on the medics, depending on how far they go.
And the majority of the repairs, like tire changes, the catalytic converter gets ripped off a police car. You're doing the actual repair work. You're not sending it out.
Sometimes we send out like the warranty stuff, we will, but
Right,
the other stuff,
obviously.
like the engine lights, if it's under warranty, the tune-ups, the catalytic converters, the axles, the brakes, that's all us.
Cynthia?
I'm concerned about the flat tires on the police cars at 2 o'clock in the morning.
We have spares, so it's a pretty quick.
Well, no, I'm just saying, are they just driving around and getting flat tires?
Sometimes there's nails and stuff. Yes.
It's okay. They got a radio.
But then I'm
Yes.
thinking, okay, now this is a really maybe very naive, and I'm not trying to take money out of your pocket. Couldn't they just get AAA?
Wait 4 hours? Have you ever called
At 2 o'clock in
AAA?
the morning.
You can call on us Friday. They say we'll be there Monday morning.
Look, I sat in a car in New Haven on New Year's Eve for
Yeah,
all
but
night.
myself and the other mechanic live in town, so like your downtime's maybe 20 minutes tops. By the
I'm
time we
just
get to the
saying.
garage, the jack, the tire, I didn't get out there.
So I have a question actually. And it's probably for you or Brad. Last year, we were over budget in fleet
Yes,
because of the price of parts.
and
Contracted services.
Contracted services.
contracted service,
Okay.
yes, a lot of that stuff.
With respect to parts, how far over were we last year? It was significant, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
149,000 or something?
but it was like stuff I didn't see coming. Ford trucks, we put brand new turbos
Yeah,
and stuff in.
turbos.
Yeah, I just like,
Okay.
totally, that was very
Big
unusual.
number stuff.
The
Yeah.
one vendor that we used last year was like 50 grand that we ended up.
Right, there was.
paying.
It was a big vendor. I remember that.
There was a couple major repairs.
So I guess here's where I'm getting. Right now, you're only going up $14,600
Right,
outside of salary.
Right.
And we went over last year by what?
$132,670.
But
Okay.
the turbos don't need to be replaced.
So
Yeah,
that's why I just want to
I'm
make sure
keeping-
you never
I'm
are
like-
going here. Are you asking for enough? Are you asking for enough? Are we
Is that
gonna
a
find?
motion or no?
Well, Are we, I
I'm
mean,
keeping, I'm hoping that's a reasonable number, right? Because I'm hoping that all that big item stuff was a fluke and just all the trucks got out of the system last year.
Right.
And
We
just
bought
so,
8 new trucks, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
More on warranty.
through the end of January, which we don't have all the bills for January, we spent 62.7% of the budget. So we're trending a little high, but
But
not,
geared up for winter, so.
but not to the same extent, but hope the woodchuck didn't see its shadow, so. hopefully-
The wood,
Groundhog.
Tony Bob?
All right.
We all good? We all have.
Yes, sir. On your, tires, how long, how many miles or months, years you get on truck tires?
Then he's taking
On the big trucks?
Yeah, I got a couple of years out of them because we rotate them and stuff like that and they're not like the big trucks aren't constantly on the road every day
All right.
as the police cars and the low boys.
What would you say you spend a year on tires?
I'd have to look at that. It varies. I spend a lot on police tires because they're like every 4 months when they get down.
Well, my question, Dan, is in the Board of Finance, we've asked the fire department to put tires on their capital plan.
Yeah, but this is almost like a maintenance, especially with the police.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm just asking, is it?
The fire truck's like every 10 years.
Yeah, 10
These-
years,
these-
right.
10 or
the
7, I
Police
think.
cars are going.
Yeah, the fire
Bob's
department,
truck's probably every 6 months he needs tires, right?
So my question was just, you know. is it
the fire
something
department is
we-
aging out. They're sitting in the
Yeah.
garage. These guys
Yeah.
are
Dry
wearing.
rotting on
Yeah,
the truck.
yeah. We're not dry rotting any tires.
You're not changing them if they, the date on it, right? DOT date on it?
No.
You're wearing them.
no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Bob, I seen your truck. I know you're not doing that.
Wait, Nick, there's a date on tires?
I just got banged on the motorhome.
So one last thing is, I just want to make sure we don't forget the capital plan. Because on the capital plan, there's your hydraulic lift, which is $79,000. The lift that needs to be replaced.
The Mohawk.
The 11.5 for the software upgrade gas pump, didn't we do that?
We did, yeah.
And I thought we did a lift a couple years ago.
That's different.
That was last year's, but I still haven't got it, so we just put it back in. You guys moved it to capital.
I thought we
They
approved.
didn't, you haven't approved it.
Yeah.
They haven't come back and asked for it officially.
No, we took it out
Keep
of their,
dragging it.
their operating
So this
budget.
list lift right now, is this the one that's in the garage that goes up? And
This is gonna replace that.
This
This is,
replace
this
that.
is gonna be a Mohawk 4-post lift with
Gotcha.
jack stands.
Gotcha.
which
All right.
will actually do the work like 2 lifts with the jack stands.
And then are we gonna replace the middle lift someday?
I'm still, we can
It's
use it
not on
for the
here, but-
small, we can use it for
Okay.
the smaller vehicles.
All right.
Cause I think it costs more for us to get rid of that lift with the DEP stuff because there's
Oh, the
some ground
ground-
tank in there. Yeah, so,
That would be nice in there. Just keep it.
yes, that's what we're thinking.
Excellent. But we're gonna move along, all right?
Okay.
Everybody else
Is there any questions out here? You guys
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. All right, next up, we have Public Works, 4230.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, how are you? I seen you sitting over there all night. How are you?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your patience. I'm just gonna cover the highlights here. There's really just, I'll just talk about the contract for 5313. That, the $8,000 increase, 25% change. So this is something, and Dan and Brad know, we've talked about this a lot. So this ties into, if you guys recall on Tuesday night when Beth was talking about her account. So this is really kind of those two accounts kind of have historically been used for the same thing. So any overage that Beth would get on her engineering services for that would basically go to this account. So historically, when you look at the two together, they've been running pretty high. Now, I brought up some old numbers. I guess I wasn't here, but I guess historically, this was the only account used for any kind of engineering, including whatever Beth needed, because I can see hers didn't exist until fiscal year 17-18, and I guess Brad can confirm that. But that when you combine the two, going back past 7 years I got here, it was about 100,000, 81,000, 91,000, 114, 115,
It went down to 76 in 21-22. And then last year when we had an engineer on staff, it went down to 28. So there's sort of a larger question. And I don't know if we can even really solve that issue. I mean, Dan and I have talked about it. It's more of a bigger, broader question. But what we're asking for is to bring this up to 40,000. So if you look at this count in particular, and I'm just really focusing on that, there is this overlap issue. But if you look at this count in particular, it's been around 40. It's gone up and down. It was at 43 for a while, and went up to 47, and was at about 40 until last year. It went down to 32, and I think the major reason for that was, as I said, we had an engineer on staff. That person has since left. We're looking to hire another person to replace them. But I guess what I would say, with that change, I've kind of retooled what I've been using that for and what it's available for. Obviously, our wish list would be a bigger account, but I think if we bring it back to 40,000, that will meet our needs for this coming year, especially. I mean, if you look at some of the things, putting anything that, the problem with what Beth has to deal with is, from a budgeting perspective, it's kind of depends on the market and what, we really can't predict who's going to come in and, make an application for development. I mean, it's been pretty consistent, but there is some fluctuation. But I'd say just from the things that I need it for, really, we have recurring every year. We have stormwater outfall testing. That's about 2,500. We'll need a couple thousand a year for other environmental services. Sometimes we had to test some old oil last year. We had an underground scan we had to do. The other major thing really for me is looking at it be about 10,000 per year for bridge and culvert inspections, keeping up on those so that our bridges and culverts are, the inspections are up to date and current. Now, we have about, at the moment, so last year I started doing some of these bridges. I was going to try to do more, but at the moment we have 9 more bridges to do. At the quote we got, it'd be about 32,000 to do all those. But what I want to do this year is just to put aside around 10,000 for the worst 3 and spread it out future years. So we had kind of a backlog of bridge inspections that needed to be done when I came in, but the plan is to kind of spread them out and make it about 10,000 or so.
How often do they need to be inspected?
It really depends. I mean, it depends on I mean, if things are going well, it wouldn't have to be frequently. We kind of just, we go back and we do, I can't remember the frequency that the state requires, but we've been trying to kind of just.
Is it like once every 10 years?
I think it's 10 to 20, I believe.
So why wouldn't we split these if it's something that's happening every 10, 15 years? Why wouldn't this go into like a capital non-reoccurring and just knock them all out? If the total is only going to be 32,000, I mean, it would make more sense if we're doing it every 10 to 20 years to put that into a capital rather than operating. Because,
okay, I
mean, it's, you're going to have all these peaks and valleys, right? This year you're going to do 3, next year you're going to do 6, where if you just do them all at once and then do them every 10, 15 years.
Unless you're only doing a percentage each year, that you keep it consistent also. You're not getting them all done. It's not like they expire,
But then factoring in if something goes wrong.
The way I look at it, and again, that's Board of Finance, really, I mean, it's your decision. And I would look at this more as a capital item if it's once every 10 to 20 years. But,
well, I wouldn't say
all at once
can you get them all done in 1 year?
Because prices are going to keep going up. So, you're going to spread it out as, over 10 years. Think about where that engineer is going to be, where if you just get them done and
you're good for 10,
you're
15
good
years.
for 10 years, or unless you find a problem or something.
No, to that point, I think one of the reasons that we was thinking about, I hadn't thought about that, but in terms of spreading it out and keeping it on sort of an operating, we had 2 incidents this year where we had to do
2 emergency bridge inspections. Bus hit, the stone wall on the Rockwell Road Bridge near, Plum Trees. Over the summer, we had to get somebody out to look at that, and that, we had that repaired. And then also we had an issue on Fleetwood Avenue Bridge. We repaired that, so.
So it
I
doesn't
mean-
factor in anything that could go wrong that.
But that,
you take
I mean, if it's a car accident, you're gonna go after the insurance
Which we
company and
did.
get repaired.
For that one, we did. For the Fleetwood Avenue, we just happened to notice there were issues.
Well, anyway, the Board of Finance
We'll
can,
deal with
can,
that.
can deal with that.
Yeah.
Let the Board of Finance
Yeah,
deal with that.
definitely, that's an option.
Eric, just in the beginning, you were kind of alluding to something. In your salary line, I know there's a vacancy. Is there a vacancy for an engineer spot? And what is that salary? And I know you guys are debating, do we fill that spot with an engineer or
I think
somebody
we-
else?
I think-
Where are we at there?
So I'll go to this
Sure,
one actually,
yeah,
just
yeah.
make it easy. So we've been having a big dilemma of how we do engineering. Exactly, we talked about this the other day, and the engineer we had last was a little bit of a unicorn in the sense that he was a site civil engineer, had bridge experience, had a lot of the things that we would need. And he was really good at like doing both things for P and Z and also the parks, excuse me, the public works part of the equation. So he saved us money, definitely, because he was out there doing full-time engineering. And I'll say this, what suffered was some of the other project management that we needed done by an engineer or somebody with respect to getting our sidewalk projects done. We have all these other projects in, in the pipeline that really we needed almost 2 bodies, but we can't really do 2 bodies. So when we looked at this, well, we decided that number one, to get a full-time engineer, a town engineer is super expensive right now. This guy was underpaid. That's part of the reason he left. He went and made a lot more money, had a better commute. We started looking at this and saying, well, maybe we need somebody with construction engineering background, not necessarily a licensed PE engineer, but it also has a lot of project management experience. That's what we found. So I think right now we're looking at hiring somebody who has done of everything in like in the landscape architecture world, but worked with bigger companies doing streetscapes, things to the level that we've done, understands how to work with all these contractors, and hopefully we can move some of our other projects forward before we lose money. Things like for our sidewalk projects, etc. So that leaves us back to the engineering part, where number one, we have to have a town engineer by statute, by charter. And we haven't actually had a town engineer for some time.
You're an engineer, sure.
But we are allowed to, if our public works director is an engineer, we can make him engineer, which we did. We appointed him as a town engineer. However, we still have a lot of engineering issues, and this is the last part of the equation is we've talked about it's very hard to find the right engineer that can do a lot of stuff. So we've talked about how we would utilize firms to do most of our engineering.
Contract service.
Right. So these are the contracted services. So the 40 grand here and the 30 in the P and Z is really what we're looking at to do contracted services from other engineers.
So we're not yet.
And we're not even there. Like, and I'll be honest, I've even looked at a firm. I mean, there's a couple firms out there in the world that do municipal engineering. Because our charter is unique. It actually allows us to pick a firm if we wanted to be our town engineer. I'm not sure we're going to go there yet, but if we did, then we probably could get different kinds of engineers to do different things, and we could get an RFP to get that price down per hour. That's kind of long term, I think, where we're looking for the engineering. But right now,
We need to carry this.
we need to carry this. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. And I'll also say this, and this will probably come up when we present back to the board. There were a lot of things like if grants have changed substantially in the sense that a lot of times we don't get planning money for grants anymore. Like they'll give you a grant, but the state will expect you to have it shovel ready and have it ready to go and have an engineer already look at it. This is something we're going to need. We may even have to come back at some point and we'll talk about like being ready for matching grants and being ready for these kind of projects. If they come up, then we'll probably come back to the board saying, yes, we want to do something together and for a specific project. Just know that might happen because we do lose out on grant money. In fact, with the last 2 years of steep grants, they picked people who had matching from the town. And we really didn't know that. And now we know that. I've talked to the state and everything. We'll have to be ready. And the engineering cost is a big part of it. So this may be a moving number. I think this gets basics what we need done, but we're going to be coming back for bigger projects. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of long-winded.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Cynthia?
Well, I just had
Thank
a
you.
question because we, Beth had that in her budget and you have
A
it in your
portion of
budget.
it.
So how does that work?
So it's kind of combined.
Will
They
it be
use it
split between
combined.
the two?
They do. So often, like Beth will do something many times and she may not have enough left, comes out of his budget.
Okay, so
But they
but when you
collaborate.
get someone, are you gonna split it between those two?
Probably the same way based on
departments?
projects. and- Yeah.
But we're just not there of having another engineer.
Right,
I
but to your point,
understand
we
that.
do,
Yeah,
like sometimes, Beth has had different projects where it's come out of his side or vice versa.
sure.
Depends who has kind of money left in the till at the end.
Got it.
They have
Some of
money.
it is depends on if it was work that used to be, if you go back to public works directors, we had an engineer also.
Yep.
And a lot of that review work was done. And that was when Beth had nothing in her contracted services. So then when that person left and we hired an engineering tech, because we couldn't get an engineer for that dollar amount, we had hired a tech. That's when we started budgeting some of Beth's review engineering stuff in her budget,
Mhm.
just to start tracking it better of how much of it is P and Z, how much of it is.
Yeah.
I got it.
And one last piece of that, just because Beth touched on this the other night, and it's super important. Beth has been very experienced in doing things for a long time. There were some things that she really didn't put out to engineering in the day, but now things have become more complicated. We are much busier, so she's probably doing less of that and needing the help. support engineers. So that's
Makes
changed
sense.
as well.
Anybody else on our side?
Can I suggest capital wise, because Eric is the rest of them, we'll just do all the capital from Public Works on at the end and just keep going through the book because it'll be less flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
That's, you're welcome, Brian. I'm trying to be more efficient.
Sorry, you didn't say no.
I don't like it. I want to move on.
All right.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions?
No, we're good.
Nope, highway
Eric,
department.
thank you.
Highway.
Matt?
My
Yeah.
favorite presentation of the year.
I
Bob
can't
Dylan.
wait. I can't wait.
Yep.
This is the Katrina Circle
This
one.
is great.
Hey, Bob, how long is this 4-minute presentation gonna be?
2.
6 minutes.
3 minutes and 59 seconds.
I don't want you to be throwing
Thanks for
shade on
coming,
Bob
Al.
Dylan. Don't be throwing shade on Bob Dylan.
All right, we got any questions?
Yeah, exactly. We're wrapping this thing up. You got the lights, Bobby? or-
Yeah, let's go.
I'll hit any of the increases on, for the highway 3 real quick. Maintenance and repairs in 207 account, 5207. I had increased our, the patching materials we purchase for our projects we do in-house. Went from 18.2 to 19.1. And our roadway asphalt section repairs, which are mill and fill work. I took that from 99,000 to 104. And again, that's due to unit cost increases, and I'll detail that a little bit better when we get down to the road, get down to the capital road construction. All right, so that's the increase there. I'll stop and wait for everybody if anybody has questions I have. Everything else is exactly the same. Snow, ice, and sand, I brought that up to $27 a ton. That's an increase on that line item, and that's what we're paying for our sand right now. Salt stayed the same. No increase there. Clothing allowance, that's contract. Speaking of that, salaries, that contract also. We're on that, right?
Yep.
Have we got any questions? Want me down if you need be. 5 through the 313, which is contracted services. We had to increase our catch basin contracted, catch basin cleanup from 70 to 82,000. And that's due to increase with the contractor. So just so you know what the numbers, when we clean catch basins, we're paying almost $3,000 a day. For
that truck.
catch basin, so it's kind of expensive.
How many does he get done in a day?
I would say an average, sometimes you have to flush pipes also. And I would say good average is a couple of dozen a day
With coffee?
with coffee. And then, and that also time for flushing. A lot of times they don't have to flush the pipes in between or what have you, so.
Probably drinks the coffee while he's doing it.
Fill the coffee, and then we bag it.
Is she a member of the fan club or no?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys do Facebook or something?
Oh, yeah, we're friends up there.
What?
Yeah, where's your flip phone?
I know.
Problem is flip's broken, right?
Bob got mad at me when I asked him to text me. during
Yeah,
that
no.
storm last
Yeah.
He's
week.
gotta hit
Just
the
sent me
buttons
a
3
text, Bob.
times,
Seems
right?
like that.
Yeah.
You the letter K.
You know how to text me.
You have a flip phone.
I'm sorry, continue. Bob.
All right, the line painting on the roads, I took from 22.5 to 28,000. So the line painting on the roads, we put an epoxy down with, and it has what's called an A and B bead in it. The A bead is like a 30-second diameter round sphere, and the B bead is like a flower. It's almost like a flower consistency glass, right? I generally get about 4 years out of those lines. And the other option to do is what we used to do for a lot of years, which is called hot applied. So the hot applied is like an acrylic-based paint. And when we went to low VOCs on the paint, we could paint all the roads, and we'll have to do it every 6 months. So the epoxy, we're saving a ton of money by doing the epoxy. But now the epoxy is 48 cents a foot. It was last year 33. It's 33 in a decimal point, 33.76 or something. And now we're at like 48.22. But we don't paint the whole town at once. So the town is split in quarters, right? Because I'm getting 4 years out of it. So, but that increase represents that number of 48 cents a foot. So, and that's where we're with that.
Okay.
Anything else? Any questions?
I got a quick question on leaf disposal, actually. 17 grand, is that, what part of the process is that?
That's all of the leaf bags we pick up.
That's picking up the bags.
Picking up the bags.
And then Ferris takes the.
He takes them, right? We bring them into the transfer station, dump them, pile them, and then he brings a trailer in.
Okay. We don't pay him to take them to his spot. Do we?
He's coming in loading
He
them, or we're
comes in-
loading it?
We load his trailer, and
Okay.
then he takes it to his yard, and we pay.
We pay him to take them.
Yes.
Is that what the 17 is paying for? Because we own the labor already, right?
Yeah.
We're picking them up.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
let's back up here, because this was something I just had a question on about that. So we go out, we pick up the leaves,
Bags, yeah.
bring them, we dump them right there next to the transfer station and
Yeah.
that little alcohol.
Yeah.
Ferris comes over, we load them on the truck
Trailer, yeah.
and put them over there. So out of that $17,000, where does that 17 go? Does that go all to Ferris?
Yes.
Everybody goes to Ferris?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We own the pickup already. with the labor.
Yeah, because well, with the food scrap program, one of the things we're talking about at the transfer station, which we'll get to later, is the ability to compost our leaves. And that, I'm just looking at that 17,000, I'm like, wow, that could go.
That's what Ferris is doing, our leaves, just saying.
Yeah, I know, we're paying him to do what we could do down the line, but that's why I'm asking, because I've never asked that number, it just didn't jump out. Because
Yeah.
we're doing all this stuff with the food scrap program.
You know, and to run the dump truck over to his place and dump leaves, we pay by volume. And it's extremely expensive. He comes in with a walk-in 40-foot trailer. We load it with the loader, we can pack leaves in it.
Sure.
So even though his trailer capacity says 130 yards, you know, he's going out of there with
180.
a couple hundred yards of leaves. So.
But basically, I can figure out where to divert those.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right,
We got 17, we just.
that's money, that could be my goal.
That's a good goal.
John, did you have a question?
I have a question. I'll be the guy. So last year, we really recognized some savings because we didn't put the salt on the roads, and sand. So this year, we're having the same situation where hopefully the salt bins are still full. Do you see that they're full and there might be some savings there?
Yeah, I mean, the salt bin is generally not full. I order material, right? So I just put in an order for 200 ton. I got that delivered this week, right?
200 ton of salt? or sand? Okay,
Yeah,
salt, yeah.
and then we'll purchase 600 ton of sand and mix those two together.
Okay, so so was that part of your budget in the current year, or you were replacing because you went through a lot of material this winter? No.
I didn't go, we didn't have a bunch of much material this winter. Yeah, 800, between 800 and 900 probably. So this is my first purchase, actually. It's that one.
What's your first invoice?
Yeah, that's my
this
first
year?
invoice this winter so far.
So I'm sorry, do you just have a dollar amount? Just so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
We're 170 budgeted, so how much?
yeah,
are you
so for example, so I could, you know, if winter stopped today and I wanted to fill my building, right? I'm gonna probably have to buy 400 ton of salt maximum and 1,200 of sand maximum.
So
It's probably gonna be a
roughly
little less
that's
than that.
what number?
So that's probably half of that budget.
Right, okay. So
A
that's,
little less than half of that budget.
right, okay, thank you. So, but you're under salaries, 5101, you also include overtime. Do you see that your current budget that we're working on now is way down, or do you
Yeah.
do you find
yeah.
savings in the overtime?
Yeah, because, our snow and ice overtime is a separate account.
Separate.
So
Okay,
we haven't had a huge expenditure there. Like when I put the payroll in at the end of the week, if there's snow overtime on there for each employee, it's written as snow. Make sure it's taken out of that.
okay, so
we
we're
haven't-
midway through. Brad's looking up right now.
Brad's
He's trying not to
percentage.
disappoint us anymore tonight. We'll give him a second.
He's talking about a woodchuck. He says squirrel, I swear to God, I'm leaving.
That squirrel didn't see a shot.
Mary talks.
Yes, you guys didn't read the newsletter. Bethel Tawny Bob came out of the highway garage
Bethel
and we
Tawny.
have an early spring company.
Oh my
I can't believe I'm gonna go next year. Can you invite me? Can we do an email invite?
We should, little fair fanfare.
Brad, are you looking up the current overtime account and seeing if on February 12th?
And I did not
read
read the update yet.
Yeah.
The weekly update.
Running a report.
Is there any other questions why Brad looks that up? He's gonna be a while, you bet.
That's all I have.
52,344.
Out of so that's
Out of
money we spent.
109.
Right, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So if winter was to stop today, there's 45,000 there.
And that's for
Which
winter,
is not-
snow and ice
And that get,
overtime?
what's that?
It's not.
Just not.
Yes.
Pump the brakes.
Just going
Pump
in.
the brake.
Watch my truck.
Okay,
I
great.
smell the brakes. Just go easy.
Okay, thank you.
Have you, on the road construction account?
Yep.
I know you said that you had redone major reclamation work on about 95% of the roads in town. I think was what you said last time. We were together.
The big reclaiming is.
The reclamation works, I'll tell you where we are with that. We got like 86 miles of roads in town and we're 56 or 57 miles of that have been pulled up for reconstruction.
Now, do the rest of them need it or they?
No. We don't need to do it on the rest. The rest of that percentage of roads that were built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? So those are, those have engineered material and anything for sub-base, right? The roads we have left that are for reconstruction are very few. There's a handful of roads that can be done.
So you're getting more.
On your budget, let's just say you take $1 million budget because it's a round number.
Yeah.
How many miles of road can you pave just the standard where you don't have to do all the reclamation work that you guys do? So how many miles?
To the surface overlay.
With $1 million.
So right now we're right around $185 to $200,000 per mile.
So you could do 5 miles a year.
Right.
So conceivably, you could do in 14 years, you can basically do the whole town.
Conceivably, right?
I know it's very conceivable.
Right.
Right.
So the caveat to that is like in town areas, we couldn't do reconstruction in town. So those roads had to be milled and then filled.
Yep.
So, the milling cost itself is like, it's $6 a square yard or someplace, I think, by the mile. Maybe a little bit less. I don't have the bids yet with it. That's a substantial cost on that 185 on 1,000 average overlay.
What should be the
Right,
goal?
so you're 50.
What should our goal be in terms of, I'm not talking about dollar amount, I'm talking about how often should a road get repaved? When you pave a road, you do a surface, you overlay a road.
Yep.
How many years before that road should get repaved? In general.
In general, I want to see like 18 years out of a road.
18 years.
Most, the industry standard is about 12. And then the road needs to be paved, but because of what we've done with our sub-base materials and the work we've done, we've brought that up to 18. And I got a bunch of roads that are reconstructed that are over 20s, right? They're in fairly decent shape. And some that aren't. It really depends on the conditions of,
Does the amount of traffic matter?
yeah, I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
story with that, right? Traffic and shade.
Sure.
But are we almost there? I mean, everyone's
Yeah.
worked together to raise that road construction
Yeah.
account up to $1 million.
Right.
I remember when I first came on the Board of Finance, I think it was under, what was it, about 400?
Oh, we kept cutting.
It was
People were cutting it.
350 a year.
That's an account
20
I
years
never
ago,
thought.
it was in
Very low. So are we almost to where we need to be to get this so we can get on track? So when
Oh,
you
absolutely.
ride off into the sunset.
Yeah,
you
no,
get
I'm-
the rain,
yeah, no.
you tell.
No, I'm very comfortable where we are, right? Like I said, the majority, the road reconstruction, the fold up work is just about done. There's a handful here and there, really just minor things to do, easy cheesy. And we're getting it, and all that work and all that money we've spent to do that, and it's not been a lot of money in context, but all the work is paying off, right?
So all those roads we've done that work on, they're set up to take at least 2 more overlays on them. So you don't have to go in and mill those surfaces. You can just go and put your maintenance overlays. So you know, you're projecting yourself out
36, yeah, 36, 40 years.
Right, exactly. Projecting
Well,
yourself out.
all kidding aside, I know everyone gives you a hard time. You have been a treasure to this town. You know, you were ahead of everyone else when they were switching to Magic Melt. You said, forget it. We're staying where we are. A lot of the towns who switched to that are regretting it now because of all the lawsuits with the damaged wells.
Right.
You've done a great job with the roads and, you know, you're always a pleasure to work with and I appreciate you.
Yeah, you know, and I really got to appreciate the support from all the boards in the town, you know, through the years, all the board of finance people, board of selectmen, all that stuff. It's been great, paint, that's a difficult picture to paint, you know what I mean? It's, 'cause we're looking so far down the road, and we're doing something nobody ever did before, and we knew that the nuts and bolts of the thing would work, you know what I mean?
It almost sounds like you didn't announce yet, right?
No.
Okay.
It's a far away. It's been working for like
Like you're leading into something. Thank you letter.
We just gotta get Slifkin's Road done before we retire. We've all determined that once he buys property somewhere, then we'll look out.
So.
Taking all the land.
My road was similar.
Well, much of land record.
Well, so back to the.
I want one
Yeah,
quick thing
yeah,
about
he
the
wants
roads.
to change the subject. We're gonna-
No, one thing, Bobby, I had one quick thing about the roads. So with the roads though, I mean, obviously with some of them, like we saw with Shelley Road recently, there was a lot of extra work because of drainage, because of all that sort of stuff. Generally, how do you account for that? Because some of these roads need more work, obviously. Like, is it still the same per mile? When you say the amount, would you say 200, 2,000?
Yeah, just we're roughly over $200,000 a mile for,
Would that include like the average of getting drainage and curbs and all the other stuff?
Oh, yeah,
You have a
absolutely.
list of roads, so is that how you figured it out?
Yeah,
Basically, I mean, for the work that it needs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Besides Katrina Circle?
So, here's, I don't know if you guys even want to look at this stuff, but you have the road numbers in your budget, but I go out and estimate. And what's very rare that a town does this, but we go out and estimate all these roads. I go out and estimate them ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we do all the drainage work ourselves in-house also. That drainage work that we do, I'll just kind of randomly handing, it's just whatever road. And then, this is the building street. So this is an estimate that I prepare each year. You don't really.
So this way you can keep it in the budget, you know when it's gonna balance out to be what you're.
Right.
I beg your pardon. Oh, this is mine.
So that's what a road estimate looks like, right? So we measure the road, right? And then we have a choice of what we want to do, whether if it's a milling job, and you'll see surface milling, you see the price per square yard. All those breakouts are on this road.
It changes road to road, basically.
Every road,
It's all,
right.
right. It's not the set price if it's a mile long, it's what that road needs.
Exactly. So, there's a lot of breakout on the road. This is all done by us, but the drainage work we're referencing to, we do that all ourselves. We do that in-house. So all of our product is bought on state bid, which we get a pretty reasonable discount on that, right? So the thing you don't see in the budget every year is on average, we'll go out and do anywhere between 100 and 130, 40 catch basin top changes and basin rebuilds each year, right? That's a couple $100,000.
But that's in your salary part.
That's right. So
And
that's
your other-
exactly. So there's a couple $100,000 of that work.
It's $1 million plus whatever you're putting in.
Right. So
catch basins
right.
and labor.
So what you're funding really is asphalt, right?
Yeah.
The good stuff, stuff that makes everybody happy. So.
Okay.
And those are estimates. We do them all the time. And like I said, there's a lot more money. There's a value, I should say. We do the road work. So you have our road list. All right.
So the road list that was provided in the budget would be if it was funded at $1.6 million. So some of these roads are gonna come off based on the 1.1. But based on, and you have a note here, the lowest for the original amount of $1.6 million. It was reduced by the first selectman with me talking to Eric to 1.1 because we didn't want to come in with a $650,000 increase in road construction. We tried to come in at a reasonable number and going up 10% instead of 65%.
All right. And so to Brian's point, right? You know, my number every year is based on, let's get 5.5 miles. Let's just pick that number, right? So 3 years ago, that 5.5 miles was like $950,000, right? So we were at $92 a ton, 91 and change a ton, vendor in place. Last year, we jumped to $106 a ton, vendor in place. So we had a 15% increase in the unit, in the per ton cost, vendor in place, right?
But it depends on what road. I mean, you just showed us. It depends on what road. I
Right.
get the asphalt, but if you need milling, that's not in your operating budget. It comes out of this $1,000,001.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
So you may not be getting 5.5, depending on the quality of the road,
Correct.
the work
But,
it needs. done.
right, but again, to Brian's point, we want to get X amount of miles done for X amount of dollars, so we turn the roads over in X amount of years, right?
I get it. Yep.
You
I
follow
got
me?
you.
So
Yep.
3 years ago, that, to get that mileage was 950,000. Now, we just did a 15% increase in our asphalt costs last year. As a matter of fact, I just got the new state bids today, and we went from 104 to 110. So there's another 4% or so, right? And then the prior year, we did like 5. So we're, there's been a pretty substantial cost in the asphalt. And that directly relates to, all right, wow, he's asking for a lot of money, but really, I need that kind of money to get to that mileage, to get to that money years to turn them over.
But if 5.5, I'm sorry, if the 950 did 5.5 miles, this summer may not be 5.5 miles.
Correct.
Because of the
Because of
road,
cost.
drainage work or something.
Well, also the prices are
And the-
changing.
and the
Well,
cost.
besides the price of the asphalt, right?
That's a
Right.
big thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, the groundwork could be just as much as the asphalt. Drainage work and reclaiming, I mean,
The milling work, the milling has gotten expensive. The reclaiming isn't too bad, but it's getting there. I'm gonna tell you something, last year reclamation work was like $7 and change a square, right? You gotta remember, we did the majority of the roads in town at $1.50 a square yard, right? So, yeah, exactly. So, at the beginning of this thing, that really made us a lot of, and I just want to make one more point with that, right? If the other choice, the other option on a road is to strip the asphalt off and then mechanically, and then strip 8, 10, 12 inches of footboard base off, all new material in it, compact it, blah, 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 right? And we're not going to include asphalt in this, right? So when we're reclaiming at $2 a square yard, right? And the other option of stripping the asphalt off and bringing in new base material before we put blacktop on, that's $20 a square yard, right? So we've done over, 50 miles, right? 50 something miles, over the past 23 to 4 years, we've done 20 something $1 million with a road reconstruction, with a base reconstruction for only a couple $1 million, right?
because you're reclaiming the material back into
Back into
the
it, right, exactly. Exactly. That's substantial dollars in town.
Why throw it away?
Right.
That chip sealer they put on 302 last year, is that appropriate for any of our, it doesn't?
I wouldn't
It
use
doesn't
on our
extend
roads.
it at all?
No, I wouldn't use it on our roads at all, because what it does is exactly what it says. It's a sealer, right? Gravel that's underneath the road, which holds the blacktop, which is the strong part. The asphalt is not strong. It's the gravel that's underneath the road that's strong.
Base.
What causes that? If that base gets wet, it's not strong anymore. You seal that asphalt. The asphalt is almost like a Gore-Tex rain jacket, right? Water drops won't go down through it, but vapor will escape through it. If the vapor water content in the base starts coming up a little bit, the sunlight hitting that asphalt pull that vapor out, keep that gravel at a certain percentage of water vapor in it, right? And it keeps it strong. The minute it gets wet, so when you put sealer over, you've done that. My best example of that I tell people is if you put plastic on your ground where you have a vegetable garden, you don't really have to water the plants very much because the water vapor in the ground can't escape. It's the same exact principle. So at the end of the day, when you see towns out chip sealing roads or chip seal, fog seal, sand seal, I don't care what kind of thing, as long as there's seal in it, right? When they go out and evaluate the roads, right? It'll give you a good number for your road condition index. And really, that's what it's there for.
It'll give a what?
That sounds,
It'll give you a really nice number for road condition index.
If they're grading the road.
that sounds sneaky.
It is.
Well,
It's a cheap way to grade the road.
I would have just.
Well, we're gonna be honest.
But I would have thrown something that's interesting out because So we talked a little bit about the new program we have to score our roads. And what it is, basically in the cab of the truck, you have an iPhone and it takes pictures of the roads every 10 feet. It compares the pictures of the roads to standard pictures to AI up in the clouds. Once they go around and do it, it gets uploaded to the cloud. We come back and we get a score for our roads. And the idea is we can tell which roads are worse, which ones are better, that sort of thing, and save some money, be more, prioritize them.
Yeah.
To Bobby's point, the day we did the demo, they had just chip sealed 58. And it caught it when the program went through, it caught it that it was a lower score because it had just been chip sealed.
Because
Means it's going to go bad
So
sooner.
we just paid for Oil at the same time.
Yeah.
So Oil got a higher score.
Yeah.
Than the chip seal on 58, but really, it's,
It like saw through it. The chip seal is not good.
I mean, the chip seals were a way to cheat the game.
Yeah.
But you could look it better and know how the road is, can't you?
Oh, come on. I told you, I warned you.
All right.
All right, and again, you have the road list there.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I gotta say that anybody ever wants to know what, hang out and see what we do, right? Same thing.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
It's been 8 years
we've been talking about it.
This is our year.
All right.
And I'll just say, I guess I'll just say for the record, if you were to take out, to get to the 1.1 million from the 1.6, one of the things, what we've looked at was to take out Sunset Hill Road, PT Barnum Square to Worcester, and Oxford Street. That would get us to the 1.1. Those two.
Yeah, we have the list that you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna do capital all the way at the end, right, for Brad?
Yeah, I think so.
Any other questions? Yeah, okay. No, thank you.
So you're not retiring, right?
They're not done yet. They gotta do the transfer station, right?
No, that's actually.
Oh, that's my
Favorite.
favorite.
Oh, you're doing
My
that three
favorite, yeah.
We got 3 more.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Transfer station,
Yeah.
account 40-25, 245. Thank you.
There's no questions. It's really good to improve.
I have one question.
What's your
Um, Like some other towns, have you ever given thought to privatizing the transfer station? And, moving those individuals over to public works? I know that towns that have private companies running their transfer stations have much cheaper tipping fees. Oh yeah, for sure. If you go down
Yeah, thanks
to
for
like
coming.
Ridgefield and you look at Wheelabrator, what they're charging a ton. It's, probably a half.
Don't you remember when, Phil.
Well, I'm asking them.
No, I'm just saying that this was a whole big thing.
We tried to privatize.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking, like,
Yeah, I'm curious too.
it just seems like, some of their time may be better suited working on the road. I mean, I can give, yeah, I got you. I mean, I can give you my opinion, want it, right? Yes, that can be done, right? My personal opinion is the transfer station is part of our community.
Yeah.
You know,
Todd's got those
just-
cats too.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, I don't know who's gonna feed the
You know,
cats.
it's 1313 Mockingbird Lane where the Munsters live, you know what I mean? It's, you go to the transfer station for the cool factor.
It's a
You might
social
pick up
event.
somebody's.
I gotta go there. I swear I never go.
Oh,
I gotta be honest with you, I've been there a few times. I was.
Is it cool?
I wasn't like I'm
go
gonna
all
sit
the
here and have
time.
lunch, unless Zuvich is there, then I'll hang out and have a
You
good
know
laugh.
what? We're gonna have a special
So
meeting.
let's,
I think, all of us.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's all come down and let's
Sidewalk.
finish up.
I'm listening. I just think it's a fabric of community, right, where people go and they talk
It's
to
kind
each
of like a
other.
library.
And I think that's important that we have that. But that's just my opinion. I think the transfer station is a great place. It's weird,
Where would Wayne put his artwork?
exactly. You know what I mean?
But I don't think Brian's saying get rid of the transfer.
No,
Oh.
I have it ran privately.
They do it in other
They
towns
do.
where
Nobody's-
you still have the transfer station, they still have their swap table, because I've seen it in other towns. But, it's being run, it's
There's
being run by
cats.
companies, like I said, where the tipping fees are much cheaper because these are private companies who this is what they do for a living. They have their own, trucks that are running it to the trains and everything like that. I'm not suggesting getting rid of employees. What I'm
No, I
saying
hear
is
you. No,
you can
totally
move them over to Public Works or, whatever, and, make things more affordable for our residents, because, you know, I'm kind of, you know, I look at what it costs to dump stuff there and I'm like, well,
You know, we're always trying to find a way to track.
So you think Oak Ridge is less expensive than dumping stuff there?
it's $120-something a ton.
How much would it decrease by?
What's it a ton here? $400, right? To dump something.
Yeah.
$400 a ton to dump here. It's a pretty big difference.
Is that what it comes out to with the 25 cents
If you
a
did the
pound?
25 cents.
25 cents times
Yeah.
2,000.
But we also have a lot of other programs there too. It's not just three garbage and walk away.
But you could keep those. There's nothing saying that you couldn't keep those programs. There's nothing saying that you couldn't say, you know, we're still gonna maintain our own thing. You know, in other towns I've seen where you have the private companies running the containers, they have a separate company that's running the metal, and they break it up. Doesn't mean that, you know, I just think it's something long-term, you know.
It's always worth looking at.
We should look at a way to save money for the residents.
We're not trying to take services away from town.
And
We're trying to-
increase services on the other end where, you know, people see it every day. People drive our roads every day, and I've heard for years, we got a lot of roads, not a lot of guys, right? So it's a way to
Yeah,
get
but-
more people to
yeah.
help, you know, town highway. Anyway,
Again,
it's just a
let's-
thought.
let's-
Another conversation,
about
but we're just curious whether it's ever been thought of.
The quirkiest transfer station in Fairfield County. I don't even get emotional, but I'm getting emotional now.
And Corky costs
We'll
$111.
talk, let's move on and talk policy.
Okay.
So anybody have any questions for the transfer station besides?
I think we did
None
that
that
one
I
well.
care to.
Excellent.
Voice.
All right, next up, building maintenance, 4260.
Bobby, are you doing the tree? You want to get out of here? We'll jump the tree if you want.
No.
Okay, you're in here for the night?
Bob's got to stay for capital.
Oh.
He's got to stay for capital.
Gotcha.
Let's do let's do the building maintenance.
So building maintenance, two big ones, really, we're trying to get in line with historical spending, and we've basically asked the same request every year. The 5207, we're asking for 215. You know, that's in line with what the average spend has been for the past 4 years. We give you that. Thanks to those of you, by the way, we had a walkthrough, I think it was December 13th for the Board of Finance, and I know Don and Nick, you were there. Thanks for being there. So, you know, that was, you know, we wanted to do that to kind of give the example of what we're doing with building maintenance, because there's a lot. I would say, you know, some of it it's just, you know, our buildings are old, you know, and we're gonna deal with that. But we think that this brings it in line with what we're spending. So that's 5207. And a similar thing with 5313, although the increase isn't as much, to bring that to 350. And again, that pretty much matches what we've been spending in previous years. I think that change comes to about 8,000. Basically, that boils down to most of that is from our cleaning contract. And we're adding floor polishing, DCT floor polishing, and finishing and carpet cleaning at the PD. We just got a quote to add that, and that's what works. That's the bulk of that 8,000 right there.
For the PD floors, you said.
Yeah, and apparently, so I asked about that. That wasn't being done. At least it wasn't being done consistently at the old PD. Apparently, it had been done kind of an ad hoc basis, which is not in the cleaning contract.
Dan, why are you talking about rebidding or putting the?
Right now, the cleaning contract is it went out to bid. And I think they're still working on the acceptance, which one to do.
Yeah,
It went back and they had to like look at some things to make sure the company was actually able to do it.
Right.
What they said they were gonna do, and we should be landing on that
Yeah.
probably the next
Yeah.
month.
That'd be
imagine.
interesting.
So Eric, under contracted services, I don't see any maintenance. I mean, I see, you know, sprinkler, fire alarm testing, you know, real stuff that your guys can't do, right? I mean, your contracted services is really all of that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, all those, annual
Exterminator.
contracts, basically.
Contract.
The refuge service, it's 12.5. Is that for all town buildings, but not the school buildings?
Not the schools.
Emergency generator service contract, is that for how many generators? Not the school.
Not the
Five.
5. Yours here.
Heating.
Firehouses.
And they're doing a major and a minor service, so they're going twice a year.
Anybody have any questions for building maintenance?
I have one question.
No, go ahead.
I was just curious for 5207. There's $150,000 for outside vendors and repairs. Versus 65,000 for materials and supplies. So what's the proportion of in-house maintenance that we do versus contracting it out to another vendor?
So I'd say most of the stuff that's contracted out is specialty repair, roof repair. A lot of it is HVAC, specialty stuff, HVAC controls, oil, things like that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. But
Yeah, so like, I mean, I guess the best example, I guess the best example to make out of it is like for your house, you buy a boiler contract with your own heating company and it covers A through D, right? But it doesn't cover D through X, right? So this account here covers those things. Our contracts and our boilers and all those things are the same, not much different than what they have. I think, is that what you're?
I guess I'm just wondering what the $65,000 material supplies goes to versus the $150,000 of someone else coming in to fix my boiler.
Oh, I think a lot of that is what our building maintenance guys purchase in the course of their repairs.
Right, so what kinds of things are they doing versus calling in the boiler specialist?
They do a little bit of everything they do, but it's more smaller stuff. It's more kind of day-to-day maintenance. They
Like
don't,
small plumbing
Ceiling
repairs
tiles,
or-
KCT,
Yeah.
floor repair, what you just, I think Dee's asking for just kind of, where's the
So
65?
if I could jump in,
sure.
one of the things that I did over the last year when I started was I started going through the work orders because we were having something happen in school and it's similar to that happens here. Our guys are good. They're just general handymen. We have a couple people who have a little bit of specialty. We have electrician. We have, one guy does a little more plumbing, but not a lot. I mean, if it's behind the wall, pretty much we'll call him plumber. So what I was finding is even the schools in here, we do have to go out and get plumbers, electricians, HVAC, like you mentioned, is huge. And those categories, as I went looking through work orders, there's probably at least a third of them that we're always getting shipped out to a contractor. Because the other side of the coin is if we decide we're going to try to hire somebody with a plumbing license or hire somebody who's an electrician. Like we have an electrician, obviously, which is great. We used to have two, but that's the other side. So probably about a third is what I discovered last year. We really haven't sat down recently, but that was what was happening was we would go to the school and we go over there and it was something we couldn't do either for the amount of time or because of the expertise needed. Plumbing, a big thing. So we ended up calling a plumber or we ended up calling an electrician or we call it the HVAC, and about a third of them is what I was noticing at that time. So we kind of talked about it, but I was getting really into the data. That's probably
like one example that comes up a lot is with plumbing. And for example, like our guys have a snake, but it's only so long. So they can clean out clogged pipes so far. But if it gets, sometimes at the school, they found stuff that's, hundreds of feet away and they need somebody with a more robust equipment or something. That's one example.
What was your actuals on materials last year? What was the actual?
On materials? I don't know. I think we were pretty close to that split. I would have to pull that out.
I'd just be 65,000.
I mean, if you look at
For
what,
general small repairs, I mean.
yeah, but if you look at the number of repairs and the size of the buildings, I mean,
Well,
the schools are,
Pretty familiar with.
I know, I'm just saying.
It just
comparing
sounds like a big number to me. I'm just curious
Yeah.
how close. I mean,
Yeah.
Just to me, just looking at it.
So
Well, we should get that number.
I'd be interested to see what the actual was.
Yeah.
So I think Dee's question was, it would be a ceiling tile that need to be replaced or a VCT flooring. That's where the 65 is buying the materials that our labor would be fixing.
Or faucet.
Right, a faucet.
And so there's five employees.
Yes.
To do the
Well,
maintenance,
no,
and this
well,
includes the school building. so-
No, that was-
Exactly.
I'm just thinking.
No, but,
All our town.
no. Nick, but the materials, when they call an outside vendor.
No,
that's
no,
not going
for
towards
our
the
workers, 65 is
yeah.
for our workers. And the 150 is if a guy comes in and opens up the wall.
Well,
for the
Yeah.
plumber, right?
And that would be over 5,000 a month in materials,
A lot of material.
a lot of material.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like flushometers, stuff like that on the plumbing.
So are we doing our own flushometers?
Yeah,
I
that,
hope,
that's,
yeah.
that stuff is real, it's got.
No, I know.
The lock set. right?
Yeah.
All the locks, yeah.
A lot of them are water saving now, and not the flushometer just isn't a mechanical piece anymore. It's also has electric power to it. It's,
Yeah.
Dynamite, that stuff.
Yeah.
Flushometers?
Ate 'em.
We're not running power. We're running batteries. to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many buildings do we have all together?
We've got, count the small, we've got this building, the library, the two firehouses, the PD, the highway garage. We also do.
Dog
work on-
pound.
Water and sewer.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, there's smaller, water and sewer
YMCA.
department have small, YMCA and maintain.
Including, all the buildings including the school complex, there's like 830,000 square feet.
You're making it sound like it's a lot of work. Stop.
Yeah.
I just don't have to know that.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah, it was the number we had last year. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions,
I'm
Billy?
done.
Maybe we're all good?
Negative.
Good.
And now.
Um,
All right, so.
The
All right.
We go.
Right, last year, when I started, like, the bricks back and forth, my house, like,
Take it away.
but it-
So,
That's just those vendors.
Tree warden, we,
What's that later?
Yeah, if we can stay focused.
Yeah.
Hi,
No,
we're at the
Brad
tree
just
board.
gave us the number and you weren't.
We're in the home stretch.
Of the ones that I recognize, like
Recognize.
FW Web, that's not a supply house.
Yeah, no, that's,
Plumbing supplies.
Oh, that, all right, so that's one I don't know.
yeah, you have to.
We're out of order. Everyone's talking.
So tree warden, account
Yeah.
number 40-270.
So, the only change shown on here is the, increase in the stipend for the, tree warden. That actually hadn't been increased since 2008, 2009, so it's been about 15 years. The request, I will point out though, with our request, for the contracted services, which is the bulk of our, work, we have all seasons tree care. And by the way, they do a great job and give us a great deal. We had the occasion to look for some other contractors last year and they were by far lower than any of the quotes we got. So, we're really happy with them. Last year, we asked for a much bigger increase. I believe it was like 192 or something. Obviously, we didn't get that. The reason we're not asking for this year, not only we just focused on needs, but also I think there, and I was talking to the tree warden about this. So the big thing was this ash borer pest. But I think we're starting to get a handle on the ash trees. And over the next few years, I expect them to go down, the number of ash trees we're gonna have to deal with. And in fact, I think we would be down. The only difference is that the other change that was made is all the park and rec tree removals that were coming, that Park and Rec was requesting, used to go under their budget, and they're now under ours. So that was about 30,000 in the previous year. So I think between that decrease, I think that's why we're expecting it to kind of be flat now. The other thing that's on the horizon from the tree warden told me there's a beech leaf disease spreading. But he said it's not as bad as the ash borer, but that would be kind of the next thing. But even with that, I think we're still seeing a downward trend. So I would expect this to stay level or go even go down in the next 2 years.
Great.
A lot of dead trees along the road.
A lot of that ash trees.
The storm's been taking them down.
And it's-
Yeah.
I just asked
hurricane.
Brad, I just asked Brad, you spent $118,000 to date
Yes,
this year, so.
yes.
Doesn't leave you a lot of something.
No, we're a little bit ahead, so.
They've been doing a lot of big work too.
Yeah, and not only that, another thing that generates a lot of the cost drivers is, we receive a complaint over a dead tree, right? We go and look at it and yeah, it's dead. And now we're noticed.
It's a liability.
So now it's becomes legal. So you have to address it,
Yeah.
You don't have any choice. So, but, and to Rich's point, a lot of the maple trees now are mature and they're starting to become.
Probably got more maple trees now than you do there.
I'm good. Yeah, we're getting pretty good on it.
Anybody have anything for the tree?
Nothing for the tree.
All right.
Can you say one?
Capital budget.
You got laryngitis?
Yeah.
So
I'm
obviously,
happy with this, but I didn't know.
You have nothing in it. We're all set, Brad. There was nothing in capital.
Yeah, we'll put you down for nothing.
Put you down for a big zero.
Big nothing burger.
so obviously with the capital, the way we've been handling it, been handling it through CNR for the most part. There's not enough money in CNR to do all of it. So I think if you just touch on, at this point, some of the bigger items that are coming up, and obviously anything would come back in front of the boards anyway for CNR. And the board should at some point look at it to see if there's anything that you'd want to include as part of the budget process, or if you wanted to continue just doing as CNR fund balance throughout the year instead of trying to do it as part of the referendum vote.
I just have some questions.
Yeah.
Few things. One, I see that you have the full structural inspections in the capital budget. You have a scheduled for 24, 25, and you're carrying 50,000 for it. So does that mean
Where is this under works?
Public Works.
building, you have it under building maintenance, so you have full structural inspection of 11 bridges town-wide for 50,000.
Yeah. Nice catch there.
I'm awake.
Nice catch. It's so nice to see you engaged.
I'm engaged. Feeling good. My other question is I don't know how many times we've worked on this roof at the town highway garage. We were doing this when I was on the board of finance.
No,
This has been,
You made a pinky swear with Doug Art.
yeah, it was great.
2015.
We did take a tour of that, and there's a couple different issues. I think they're questioning it as a structural issue.
Which we talked about when I was on the board of finance. That came up, I remember. Right.
And I believe what I think I wanted is to see an actual real report from an engineer. Bobby's issue was he was having some deflection from the roof on the interior wall, and he was concerned. So we've been carrying this big number, and we really don't know if there's a problem or not.
But didn't we approve at some point capital funds for this
In
project already?
2015, and then you made
How
him swear. you
How much,
conceded in
how much should we
2016.
approve in capital funds on this?
And is that money still allocated?
Yes, and they did a few things, and they found out there was a problem with the roof, so they couldn't really install the whole
The structure
So-
thing.
thing.
As you know, what we've done is we kind of restarted that. And I think we used some of that capital money. We had a sort of write an RFP to solicit a structural or architectural engineer to do a redesign of the roof. So that's our next step.
That's gonna cost like 3 times as much as.
Let's step back. A
Okay.
redesign of the roof?
Let's hear it from our perspective.
So in 2018, $65,000 was approved for the highway structural repairs sand shed.
Yeah,
And that money has been
that's different.
spent.
But that's the same.
But-
That's the sand shed.
But before that, I know we
The
talked about,
garage, carbon
because we talked
monoxide,
about carbon monoxide, the automatic. garage door
Particulate.
The carbon part's done.
they were
I'm sure it is.
particulate.
Just wonder about the roof.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm just going back to.
There's a.
So,
thought we did.
so in 2017,
There's a problem.
$150,000 was approved for the highway garage roof.
Mm.
That was still when we were doing it as part of the budget referendum. So that money is gone because we never did the work. We spent 29,000 of it. So that
Right.
money's gone because we don't borrow money unless we need it.
Oh,
Oh, but we did approve it. I
We did
remember.
approve
Yes.
it.
And then that was the same year that the highway garage carbon monoxide system was approved for $250,000.
Bob said it's done.
Yeah.
That's
so
done, isn't it?
221 of that was done.
Yeah.
So that is done. But that's the big chunk of it.
But the roof was a big problem. There was, right?
But hold on a second, I think we're talking, is there a leaking roof problem or is there a structure problem?
I think it's
Rusting.
both, a little bit of both. Okay. Right.
Those are two different things.
Right, exactly.
When
So-
someone says roof, they think the water's leaking.
Yeah, so where the parapet wall is between the office area and the actual highway garage, that roof over there is always leaking.
Okay, so that's a leak.
Buckets in the office.
Yep. And where your yellow trucks are, you believe it's a structural
I
problem.
think we have maybe a structural problem when snow load concerns me on that.
So Eric just said that he re-engaged and they're trying to figure out exactly what the problem with the building
And I think that's a good next step.
So you come back to us.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have money to get that? I mean, it sounds like
Or to start that process.
there's some.
Because I don't want to find that roof falling on top of Bob Dibble there.
You get the fan club thing. I got that.
I'm saying.
Bob would have to be in the barn for that.
Right, he's
Must
in
be
the
just
demolition derby with his truck.
He's
Quarter 12,
He's
guys.
hanging out in the
I
salt
know,
barn.
we're
He's
leaving,
like,
don't worry.
so if we're gonna have an engineering company come out and look at it, we should come back with a capital request.
Exactly. So let's deal with that. That's not on your budget right now. So is there anything else on the capital plan you want to speak of?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, there's a 74,000 for replacement dump body.
And I'm sorry, is this on your highway? or
Yeah,
what?
this is a highway. This
Okay.
is what everybody's looking at, right?
Yeah.
And there's two trucks on there also. Let's move those, I want to move those trucks down a few more years. Like,
Oh, I like that.
like
Yeah, yeah,
3 or
let's do
4.
that.
2027.
Yeah, and then
Let's do that.
2028,
Yeah.
right? And then I'll split with you. If you give me that $74,000. See, one of those trucks is a 2008, right?
So you're changing out a body on a big truck?
I'd like to change that body out on that 2008 Sterling, right? And so when we replace that Sterling, that truck will be put in as a spare. Fords will be at like going at that point.
I thought the Sterling you're having a problem getting parts for it, and you want to put 75 into that, and you think it's still a good spare?
That Sterling's got that Cummins ISX 8.3 in it, like the motor home fire truck engine, blah, blah, blah. I haven't had too many problems finding parts for
Wasn't
that.
that the clutch linkage on a Sterling?
That's the 2006 one.
Right. Okay, so
And that's got a different, it's a Brazilian company. Yeah, in transmission, so,
you're running it, so.
yeah,
He's haggling.
yeah, I'm
He's haggling.
haggling.
He's
So
making these bargaining.
I think that's, if we can go that way on that body, right? That would make me pretty happy.
All right, so again, Brad's gonna make the notes on it, and then we'll entertain that when we're entertaining the capital, right? Unless someone adds it to their budget type of thing, so, right, Brad?
Yes, that makes sense.
Move that up to you.
And Nick, just to further that, just real quickly, that body that we put on that truck, if we did have an issue with that Sterling, it's the same dimensions we're putting on a new Peterbilt.
You're not wasting the body. You
I'm
can
not
pick it.
wasting the body, so we could buy a chassis and take that body off.
Pick it,
That
put it back
Sterling
on.
would be 10 problems.
And that's a sanding body and all that.
Yeah.
Looking for.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Anything else on capital that anybody wants to speak of? He's wrapped up, look at him. And he's ready to go.
I'm out.
He's got the stakes back in the little seat.
I'm out.
Any other questions for Bobby on anything capital, anybody?
Yeah.
From Board of Selectmen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, gentlemen. I know it's a long night.
Thank
I
you.
didn't make the motion to
All in
adjourn.
favor?
Bob did read it, second by John.
Board of Selectmen, it's adjourned at.
Thank you, everybody. I knew tonight was gonna be big. Brad said we'll be out here by 9.
I thought Brad only made about 20 mistakes.
Mary, Mary.
Bye.